All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Xbox 2 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, on this beautiful November 18th, where it is completely overcast and raining here in Chicago. So, what a day. What a wonderful day to do a podcast, especially when it's nice and just gray and it's just you get those, you look outside and you just kind of feel dreary.
Well, I don't. Well, that's the thing, right? About when it's raining and dreary outside, you put some nice heating on, put some slippers on. Then it's kind of cozy, I think.
Yeah.
No.
Let me know if everything's going well with the audio, because like I couldn't hear the music when I had the YouTube thing open, and I think there's something wrong with my audio settings. I'm currently looking at my PC. Was let me know if everything's going well. I'd appreciate it, because you never know how these things can always screw up, especially when you're live and stuff. But I think everything should be good. So I'm here. And we have the reason why we're doing the show on Monday here, because, we're supposed to do it on Fridays, and I want to do it on Fridays. But Jez Corden told me on Tuesday we weren't going to be able to do the show until Monday. And I'm like, really? After all the things that happened this week, people want to come out and hear what Rand and Jez have to say
Yes.
about all this stuff. And it's like, you're going to make them wait till Monday, a new week? But we're going to have to do two or three podcasts this week? So blame Jez.
Yeah.
It's his fault.
It's 100% my fault. I'm in England, so I'm super busy, trying to get all of my England things out the way that I could do, visit family, doctor's appointments, all the stuff that I do when I'm in England, kind of thing.
Mm.
I'm here half the year, and then in Germany half the year, so it can be a bit hectic when I'm here, but yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. Hopefully this Friday we'll be going ahead as normal.
Well, yeah,
so...
it is the end of the year, and there's a lot of family stuff going on between Thanksgiving. Well, then again,
yeah,
you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, so that's a U.S. thing.
I do not.
Well, it's a Canada and U.S. thing, but different dates on that. And I'm not even. It's funny because I was talking to my family about Thanksgiving this year, and they're like, okay, so we're making all the great stuff, right? We're gonna have turkey, gonna have mashed potatoes, gonna have broccoli casserole and Jello mold and all these things, and I'm just like telling them, like, I'm not eating any of that. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'll have turkey and maybe I'll have some mashed potatoes, but they're going through the list, like, what about pie? You don't want like pie for dessert? And I'm just ice cream and all the things we normally would have, and I'm just like, listen, like, I'm on a diet. I'm doing well. I don't need this like whole thing of like, what do you mean you don't want dressing? What do you mean you don't want any of this? What? I'm like, turkey's fine, and I'll have that. But once you kind of give in and be like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna stuff my face with all this crap. Then the willpower kind of just constantly goes away as Slow Burn Picture says. Jello mold. Yeah, it's a thing. It's probably called something else, but it's like a thing of different colored Jello. Essentially, we always call it Jello mold, and it's really mold. Good. But yeah, it's just like I tell them, like, yeah, I'm having turkey and that's it, and they're like, but I'm like, well, if there's not, if you don't want to cook because there's not gonna be a lot of people, then don't cook. Just order it from somewhere else. Like, pick it up at a store, because I guess you can do that these days, right? So
True that.
Someone says it's one day, Rand, you worried of relapsing? Yeah, I mean, because then you start thinking like, one day is okay, why not 2 days? And if like, 2 days, why not 3 days? And they're like, oh, I'll make it up in the following weeks. And I always personally find that difficult to do, so I'd rather just stay on target rather than have to excuse a reason for it, because I usually find when that happens, then that's like sort of like the beginning of the end, when I give myself leeway to make excuses and do stuff, and
I'm completely the same. Like, we are totally on the same page with this. Like, if I have one day where I screw up, like before E3, I lost like 40 pounds before E3, the start of this year, and then I went to E3 when, like, you don't have your own kitchen and all that kind of stuff, and you have to like sort of order takeaways and stuff. And then it's like, oh god, no, it's all falling apart. And then it's like, well, I've screwed it up now. Why even bother?
Yeah.
So I feel the same way, man.
So it was an interesting week. How's your week? How's being in the UK again? Is it all
It's
right?
been good, man. It's been good. It's been hectic. It's been busy. I tried to have a few days off last week, and I couldn't because there was just so much going on. So I was like, I ended up having Thursday and Friday off instead, and then killing two birds with one phone, two birds with one stone,
Mm.
getting some family visits out of the way. And I thought we can always podcast on Monday, and when family can't visit because it's been a work day the next day or whatever. So yeah, very busy, very lots of stuff going on, lots of cogwheels turning, lots of things happening behind the scenes, which is interesting. Hopefully stuff I can talk about soon, but yeah, I'm pretty hyped right now, and
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot going on in the Xbox universe, I
Stalker
think,
2's
which is
coming out this
interesting
week.
too.
We have Microsoft Flight Sim coming out this week as well. Microsoft
We
Flight Sim,
do,
I believe, comes out
indeed.
tomorrow morning. Like 10 a.m. I think is the release date, and then Stalker 2 is like literally the next day, 10 a.m. For like 10 a.m. for me Central, so it'd be 11 a.m. Eastern or whatever. And I think it's interesting this time. There's like no reviews for Flight Sim. I think we mentioned in the last podcast that there weren't any planned reviews for Flight Sim because I guess they were waiting for the day one patch
Yeah,
to go
it's the
live
server
before.
base.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's day one patch, the server based stuff, so there's no reviews for it. But it's never a good sign when there's a short period between the reviews and release. So I would be intrigued to see what the game actually looks like once it's launched. We'll see.
yeah. Um, Silas says, "When are we going to see Randall Blue Sky?" I don't know. People have been asking me about that. About when am I going to move to Blue Sky? But the thing is, I've sort of conditioned myself not to even use social media very much, as you can tell from my Twitter engagement. Although when people DM me, I always try to get back to them. It's just that I don't really post. I'm like the exact opposite, Jez. Well, actually, you've cut down on your social media usage as well, because
I've
you
cut down quite a lot. Yeah.
because you used to whatever thought was in your head, it didn't matter. It was coming out on X or Twitter, and I sort of just
Yep,
stopped
sure
doing it
was.
because I didn't like Twitter anymore. But now everyone's like on Blue Sky, and I sort of always felt like nobody's really leaving this platform. It's always people are just like, look, I'm over here, come join me. But then you look at like they have like no posts and stuff, and it's just one of those things where I feel like it's not really
Yeah.
meaningful. Although it does seem like this latest Exodus is more meaningful than other ones, and maybe
I'll
we'll
tell you.
stick.
I'll tell you right. I'll tell you right. Like when I really thought Threads, if there was ever going to be a competitor to Twitter, it'd probably be Threads because it's Instagram and it's linked to Instagram and it's backed by Meta. But I tell you something. Like the engagement I'm getting on Blue Sky is orders of magnitude higher
Mm.
than Threads right now, and it's all organic because they've got like really robust tools for preventing bots from signing up, and also you need a domain attached to become verified, really, which also makes it more difficult for bots as well. So the organic growth on Blue Sky has been far better than the artificial growth that Threads has had. I kind of feel like, and I'm enjoying Blue Sky so far. It feels like old school Twitter, and I have started tweeting there more and more often. But yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. Will I ever join? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe I'll just make an account just so nobody can grab my name. Although maybe somebody already has my name. But I'm not. I don't know. I'm very much the anti-social media guy. I don't really post my thoughts on here very much. So it would require me thinking differently. I don't know. I just don't think about tweeting anything. I just don't care about that, honestly.
nah. I mean, I
At
don't
all.
tweet as much anymore either. But like, you can always find us on patreon.com/XB2. There's a free tier where I just post updates about the show and what we're doing. So you don't want to use social media, you can always find out what's going on with the podcasts and me and Rand over on there.
So
I'm trying to use it more as well.
We got Paris in chat, and he's saying he's legit moving off of Twitter to go to Blue Sky because the hate gets old. Well, yeah, I mean, you are a predominant person in the industry, and I'm sure you have a bullseye attached to you, Paris, so I would imagine it does get old after a while. So, I don't know.
It's nice just tweeting an opinion, and then people don't get fucking psycho about it. Or
Yeah,
you don't get
that would be
bots
nice,
and
wouldn't
all
it?
that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just kind of nice, man.
It would be nice
So
to
yeah,
just tweet something.
and I ain't gonna claim that I'm leaving Twitter. I got too much links and stuff to post, and I don't mind if people want to stay on Twitter. But yeah, and like Matthew in chat says, there's a high chance that Blue Sky will eventually attract bots and bullshit and all that kind of stuff. But I'm enjoying it for what it is at the moment, and a bunch of other people are as well. So no biggie.
Yeah. God, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that went on this week. A lot, and I figured like the first thing we'll talk because obviously it's going to be a very Xbox. Well, I mean the show is Xbox 2, and it's clearly Xbox centric. But we talk about whatever goes on in the gaming industry. But this one probably going to be really, really Xbox focused because Phil Spencer was on a whirlwind tour, press tour. It really seemed like, although I think he was just in New York, and then was visiting places like Bloomberg, and then talking to people like Stephen Totilo because he had a lot to say about stuff. And boy, did the reactions to some of it are, people are a lot of people are upset. A lot of people are just like don't care because it's the way it's been for years now. There's a lot of feelings is what the gist of this and what I've gathered is that people have a lot of feelings about the things he's saying and what the future of Xbox is. So obviously we'll talk about that, but I wanted to talk about something first that happened today, and that is the Game Awards nominations. It's kind of appropriate because Paris is here, and I believe Paris is on the panel. A lot of those like websites are kind of funny and stuff are part of the panel, and there's always this debate around games that get snubbed and games like, oh, what game should have been nominated for the Game of the Year but didn't make it, and who do you think's gonna win and stuff like that. And this year had an interesting wrinkle in everything because a couple days before they made this announcement on Monday, today, they announced that DLCs and remasters would be they would be eligible for all categories. So if there was a really good DLC or a really good remaster, and we know Sony loves their remasters, that they would be eligible in any category you could potentially put them in. Right? And I was like, this is an odd move. This is kind of an odd move. I wonder if there's any reason for suddenly why they would do this. And my first thought was because, well, Shadow of the Erdtree had come out this year, and it reviewed incredibly well, almost as high as the original Elden Ring. I think Erdtree is a 94 and Elden Ring is like a 96. So my original thought was that so many people were writing Jeff about how they needed to have Shadow of the Erdtree in their Game of the Year because it was its like own thing, 30 to 40 hours long, longer than most games, period, that it would be a travesty if it wasn't nominated. And so many people were going to have it in their lists that, it would be a bad look for the Game Awards not to nominate something like that. That was my line of thinking. It was like so many people were pushing for it that they eventually acquiesced, right? And what do you know? That's kind of exactly what happened, or at least in my mind, exactly what happened, because we do have the Game of the Year nominations, and this is that's the 6 games nominated for Game of the Year. Jez, you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We got Astrobot, which I thought would be there. We have Balatro, which is the token indie game that usually gets nominated at this thing. We have Black Myth Wukong, which I think currently is the best-selling game of the year. Mostly thanks to China, but still. Reviewed okay, or I mean, it reviewed well, but it wasn't like overwhelmingly great. But it does have the sales to back it up. We have Metaphor ReFantagio from Atlas, which everybody and their mother has been talking about how amazing that game is and deserves to win Game of the Year. We have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is a remake or a retelling of the Final Fantasy VII saga, I guess. And we have Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. So, yes, I guess my thought process was correct. And it was just like, yeah, they're letting people know this in advance because they know if they probably don't caution people about this or prepare people, that when it would come out on the nominations, people would be like, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
Xbox did have 12 nominations. I believe like Age of Mythology was nominated for like best sim game. Black Ops 6 got a few nominations. Hellblade 2 got a few nominations for best performance, best narrative, best audio design, and games for impact. I'm trying to think. Diablo 4 was nominated as well. I think Xbox was had 12 nominations. PlayStation had 16. I think those were like the top three. Like it was like PlayStation 16 and Xbox was like 12. So I sort of wonder how many more they could have had if like Flight Sim actually released earlier in the year or had review copies, because I sort of feel like that would have been nominated for best sim for sure, right? Because I think it won in 2020 when it originally had come out. So it's probably missing something there. And honestly, if Indiana Jones had come out earlier, I would probably guarantee you Troy Baker would have won for... Well, he wouldn't have maybe won. He would have been nominated for best performance, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even best original score or something. So you're probably missing out a couple there as well. But what do you feel about this list? And then specifically, are you okay with DLC and remakes, or not necessarily remakes, remasters? Or you can even throw in their remakes, because there is a large contingent of people that don't like the fact that remakes are also involved and voted on for these things. Like a lot of people think they should have their own categories. Like there should be a remake category or a DLC category where they could fight out within it, instead of being, well, if it's good enough, if enough people vote for it, it could be Game of the Year. So what are your thoughts on those things?
It's interesting, right? Because we were talking a little bit about this at the start of the show, and I was trying to get what your opinion was, and you were like, "Oh well, I'm going to save my opinion for the show," and which is now you've got me really intrigued now, because I have no idea what you think about it. But I have spoken to a few people about this over the last week, developers, other journalists, just to get a gauge what the thought process is, because personally, I'm of two minds about it. And I say this because at Windows Central, we have our own Game Awards kind of thing. It's a little thing that we do for fun. We're a team of Windows Central. At the end of the day, we're a team of gamers who love gaming. So we want to celebrate the games that we played over the year. And obviously, we don't play as many games as big sites like IGN or GameSpot and stuff like that, because we've got a smaller team. So usually our game awards, quote unquote, is more of a sort of it's a showcase of just what we've been playing. And when I think about like how exactly I'm gonna handle, because the elephant in the room is without a doubt Shadow of the Erdtree.
Yes. Yes.
And that's, I think, it's clearly Shadow of the Erdtree that has manifested this to happen. But these discussions were happening long before Erdtree come out, right? So it wasn't just Erdtree, which I personally think led to some of these decisions. Like some of it is, Resident Evil 2 remaster. I remember created some of these discussions previously, and it was like, well, that's such an old game, and it's such a comprehensive remake. And most of the people playing Resident Evil 2 remake probably never even played the original. So we're really moving beyond the sort of realms of should this be eligible or not? And then if you start making concessions for things like that, and I can't remember if it was eligible or not. Maybe it actually was. But it's just things like that. When you have expansions and DLC and all this other stuff that's just so massive that it could constitute its own game in essence. Like Blood and Wine, for example. And when you start thinking about this kind of stuff at a sort of holistic level, at a sort of when you really get into reductionism with what a game actually is in essence, you could describe Shadow of the Erd Tree as a separate entity, as a separate game. It's not a standalone game. It's not a standalone DLC in terms of how you market it and how you package it to retailers,
or how you access it,
or how you even access it. No, I mean it's actually quite complicated to access as DLCs tend to go. But it's so vast, it's so huge, thousands of lines, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lines of original code, all original art assets, all original writing, and all that kind of stuff. You kind of it also almost becomes like a non-issue about how the game was delivered. It's a product that people paid for and played that came out this year, whether it's a DLC or not. So that's like the perfect world kind of view is that it should be up for consideration because in essence it is an original, unique game. However, and this is I suppose quite a big however in a way, I asked myself, would I include that in my own Game Awards? Or would I not just have a separate category for it instead? Personally, because I think these games like Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, are so rare. They are so rare that a game on that scale comes along and justifies changing the category system that I don't know. We're gonna have plenty of years where a game like Erd Tree doesn't come out and stuff like that. Or maybe only one of them comes out, and maybe it's a light year otherwise, and I don't know. I think it opens a can of worms. I think is a cleaner approach, personally, is to just have a category for expansions, DLC, and updates. I think that would be.
But
ideal
Jez,
scenario.
It's hard for Keighley, and it's hard for him to add more categories simply because they give away most of the awards off screen anyways. So if you're just adding another category, it's another category that someone's going to have to read and be like, by the way, the winner was this, right? Because last year, don't forget that they were 2 minutes into a speech from somebody. They were playing music to wrap it up because, I know there's this thing about, the Game Awards are a celebration of gaming. No, they're not. They're absolutely not. The Game Awards is a celebration of advertisements. It's about who plays Jeff Keighley the big bucks. Nobody look.
Well, that's the cynical view.
But it's the true view of it. You want a real Game Awards, you watch GDC and stuff like that. The reason people watch the Game Awards isn't to see who's going to win. It's literally to see the new product that is about to come out. It's like that red letter media thing, consume product or don't get excited and consume next product or whatever it is. Or I've screwed up the whole meme or whatever, right?
It shouldn't be that way, though.
I know it shouldn't be that way, but it is that way.
We shouldn't just say because it's an ad show that we shouldn't strive or debate about
you're right.
improving.
But there's always this talk of it needs to be the Oscars and look, Jeff has done a really well job of promoting this to the point where it gets more viewers than the Oscars does. I think the only thing that gets more viewers than the Game Awards really is the Super Bowl. The Game Awards has better viewership than the Emmys, the Grammys, any of that stuff. So he's doing something right, but at the same time, the whole award show is predicated on us gamers wanting to know what is going to release in the future. I mean, hell, I watch this every single year with my friends, right? I think I said this on the last podcast, but I'll say it again for just to reiterate. I know because Paris is a little angry right now, but that doesn't matter, right? I watched the Oscars with my buddies last year, and I watched the Game Awards with my buddies every single year, right? And it was interesting to compare and contrast both of them because with the Oscars, people really cared about who was going to win. And when the commercials came on, obviously everybody just tuned out and we were just talking about stuff, but they were legit interested in who was winning. But with the Game Awards, when you watch that stuff, there was a little interest of like, oh, who's going to win Game of the Year and stuff, but nobody really cares about the little granular things of like best action game or best action adventure game. What we're all there for is being like, shh, it's commercial time. We're about to see a new game. Right? And that's what and then because then the discussions would be about that game, if it looked cool, if it didn't. So it's interesting to see how people approach one show versus the other. To me, the Game Awards, and come on, last year Jeff got a lot of shit for what happened last year, right? And that's what it is. I hate this idea of like people being like, oh, it's for the love of gaming. No, it's not. It's for the love of selling ad space. It's an advertisement event. It's not necessarily for the love of gaming. At least the way it's presented and the way some of the talent and everything are treated, it's not really about gaming in general. It's just about selling advertisements for the major publishers and indie games and all that stuff to see what the future is, right? And you know what?
Just to play devil's advocate.
Okay, you can play devil. Okay, Jeff, let's go. Devil advocate it up.
I play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Right? It ain't cheap to put together one of these kind of shows. It ain't cheap. So when you think about it in that context, the only way it's ever going to get funded and ever be an even vaguely decent show and have highlights like Mick Gordon playing the Doom soundtrack live, which was badass, frankly, is through sponsorship deals, man. That's the only way that kind of show is ever going to get off the ground. Because who's going to pay for it, man?
Yeah,
I tell you now, Xbox and PlayStation and all them guys, they ain't going to pay for it.
Exactly.
They ain't going to pay for it themselves. None of the shareholder kind of companies are going to pay for it. So in that vein, you kind of have to have sponsors. I mean, am I crazy, Rand?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Chris R says, be honest, would you even watch it without the announcements? And the answer is no. I wouldn't. The announcements are why people are there to watch it. Now, maybe I shouldn't say why everybody's there, because obviously there could be people that actually watch it that are there to be like, see who's going to win. But it's like any other award show at that point. Like the Golden Joysticks or GDC or any other award show. But nobody really watches those either because there's no new game announcements and world premieres.
People watch the Grammys and the Oscars.
Yeah, I mean, people watch them, of course, and the Oscars, and they usually because
do they have announcements there.
Yeah, I mean, no, they don't have any new film announcements at the Oscars, but they do run because a lot of new people are watching. They do run a lot of new advertisements. I mean, one of the things with the Super Bowl is how many Super Bowl ads are there. I mean, there was this whole thing about Super Bowl ads and people are watching the game because they love football and they're fans of the two teams, right? But then most times, like myself, if I'm watching a game and I don't have any rooting interest in any of the two teams, like, yeah, sometimes I'll be watching the commercials and seeing what new movies are going to be. You know, there's always trailers for new movies and stuff like that, right? But yeah, I honestly think that if there weren't any new game announcements, nobody would rewatch the show. But Jeff is a smart businessman, and he tied both of those two together, so this became the de facto award show. Like when people talk about Game of the Year outside of their own personal thing, they're really referring to the Keighley's. They're not really talking about anybody else. It's like it's kind of wormed its way into everybody's brains that Game of the Year is the Keighley's. And good on him for. I mean, I guess he's even trying to trademark the name Game Awards.
The Game Awards specifically.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't fault Jeff for doing it because it's a business at the end of the day, and gamers are, we want to see cool stuff, and we want to know what's upcoming. So, yeah, I think for most of us, if there wasn't tied to any new announcements, none of us would watch, or I should say, most of us won't watch. Because what's the point? You just read the winners on your thing, on your phone when they happen, and be like, all
That's
right.
the thing. I mean, people watch. Why do people watch the Oscars? It's because they like the celebrities, but nobody really. The Game Awards are weird because the people who make the games, generally speaking, aren't celebrities, except outside of your Kojimas and maybe your Tim Schafers and people like that, right? Because most people get into game development because they're artists or programmers. They're not necessarily looking to become celebrities and stuff like that, right? I
Mm,
mean, I don't think I could recognize Christopher Nolan in the street. You know,
yeah, you would. I would. I'd be able to.
I wouldn't. I have no idea what he looks like, or some other directors. Ridley Scott, Ripley Scott. Is it Ripley or Ripley? No, it's Ridley Scott. I wouldn't recognize him in the street, even though like supposedly, Gladiator 2 is a banger, but I don't know.
But that's my.
So,
I mean, I ranted about this last year when last year was, pretty apparent of what was going on. But as it pertains to the DLC thing, because I even think the DLC thing is overshadowing just the nominations itself, right?
mm,
How do I feel about Erdtree being part of there and potentially DLCs and new game seasons as well? So it's not even just DLC, but it's also, hey, dude, Fortnite Chapter 5 could be nominated or whatever, and which is an odd thing, but it's just like, okay, that just goes to show you how prevalent like live service stuff is now. That, yeah, like we could nominate game seasons. And the thing is, you could probably have your own category in the Game Awards with game seasons, because almost all the biggest games in the world all have them. From Sea of Thieves to Call of Duty to Fortnite, you could easily have its own category. Just like you can easily have a DLC category if you wanted to. A lot of games have DLC. But okay,
to be fair to Jeff again, to play Jeffel's advocate again, his work is cut out for him because at the end of the day, games are a lot more fluid than movies and music. Like, it's really easy to set up a category from music and movies and things like that because, it's pretty easy to define those things, and you can define them via specific kinds of metrics and things like that, right? I see some people in the chat asking, like, why isn't Call of Duty nominated, for example? And it's like, well, game journalists don't even really see that as almost a game anymore. It's more like a hobby, or I can't see World of Warcraft ever being recommended. Like, World of Warcraft could be the biggest game of the year one year for some reason, and it would never get nominated because it's so old. Like, there's other games that are just huge that nobody ever really talks about. Is Genshin Impact ever been nominated for anything? And and that
it
kind
might
of
have been
thing.
nominated for like ongoing game, because they do
Yeah,
have
I suppose.
the ongoing game, category, and there is a category for best multiplayer, which Call of Duty is nominated for and stuff.
Yeah, but what
So
about some of these other tiny, or at least to us they're tiny, but these mobile games that get like ridiculously huge engagement,
mm,
like, I don't know, PUBG Mobile or something like that. And I know they do have mobile categories and things like that, but gaming is it's so fluid and different, and I suppose less definable in some regards, especially because of how you can patch games and you can update games. You can't update a movie, at least not today.
I
Maybe
don't
that's the future.
I don't think
Although, mind you,
I don't think they
sorry,
have
go
a
on.
best mobile category.
Oh, really? They probably should. I
Well,
would
let's
have
see. You
thought.
got Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, which is, it's always weird because Game of the Year and Best Game Direction are just the same nominations. So it's like, I'm looking at Game of the Year and it's those 6 games we mentioned, but then I look at Best Game Direction and it's the same 6 games. So I feel like it's a waste of a category, right? Because
Mm.
Game of the Year says, recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. And then Best Game Direction is awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. I almost sort of feel like
That's the other thing. It's like if you do have a best direction category, and or like maybe something more niche, like say for example, you did make a dedicated category for DLC and expansions, but those were also eligible for Game of the Year, you could end up with a lot of overlap. So when I try and do that Windows Central Game Awards, I try to pick awards that are gonna have the least amount of overlap, hopefully.
Oh no, they actually do. They actually do have a best mobile game here. Here are the best.
Yeah, I thought they did.
Yeah, here are the best ones: AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Trading Card Game, Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero are the five
There's
nominees.
some good nominations, I think.
Yeah.
I see that AFK thing all the time on Instagram ads. But yeah, I don't know.
But okay,
It's hard, man.
So
It's
here's
hard to pin down some categories
So
sometimes.
here's the
I think
thing.
for this shit.
I am a proponent of remakes being nominated for all categories, like Silent Hill 2 remake, the Resident Evil remakes, the Final Fantasy stuff. Because I do think a lot of work goes into those, even though they're based on an older game. I think there's like so much work that goes into that if the game's good enough, then it should be nominated. And I know a lot of that is based on nostalgia, like people playing, Silent Hill 2 and liking it. It's like, oh my god, like there's a lot of nostalgia being based around like Resident Evil 2 remake or Resident Evil 4 and stuff. So I get that, but I do think remakes, when there's that amount of work being done, should be nominated. Remasters, however, I don't think deserve to be. And honestly, I don't really think anybody would vote for those. Like, there was the thought process that maybe Sony could get The Last of Us Part 2 to win again because it had a remaster that came out in January. Or maybe Horizon could actually win an award because, it hasn't won for any... It's been nominated twice, but it hasn't won once. And, like, there's the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster that came out. But I feel like even journalists and everybody who votes on this would say, like, oh, that game had its moment in the sun. Like, Last of Us 1 in 2020, and it is just a remaster with some cool, bells and whistles, but there's no reason to vote on it because there's new games to vote on. There's new experiences to nominate. Not the same old stuff from 4 years ago that slightly gets a res boost, right? And that's why...
that's the thing. It kind of incentivizes a lack of creativity.
Yeah.
In some ways. But I think nobody's really building games based on wanting to win an award.
But I'm just saying, like, because
the only thing that motivates that
they said remasters can be nominated and everything, but I don't think anybody's going to nominate a remaster because...
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah, I think most people would be like, no, we're going to nominate something new. But then it comes down to DLC and expansions and stuff. And so you make the choice to let that happen this year, and here's Shadow of the Erdtree. And I'm kind of torn because I know a lot of work went into it. Probably a lot of work that went into it, more than some of the other games. So I'm actually fine with Shadow of the Erdtree itself being nominated, but I also recognize that it is
it's
sort of
a weird case.
Well, no, that it is piggybacking off of the success and popularity of Elden Ring in general, which the other games in there don't really have. Right? You know what I mean? It's sort of...
But so too do sequels, though.
Sure. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Final Fantasy VII, like Rebirth and stuff. But I feel like Erdtree is... I mean, I haven't played it myself, but judging from what everybody I've talked to, a lot of people think like it's the best thing that's released this year, period. And it's a DLC, right? And I feel like in that case, you probably should have it nominated, but then it could run its own category, and then you could sort of acknowledge it and pay it respects to it about how good it is in its own category. Right? Like, oh, the best DLC, best expansion was Shadow of the Erdtree. So then people could actually look at. I think this is like I do think this is an extreme case that is probably not going to repeat it again for a while, simply because of how popular From Software is, how good Elden Ring was, and how amazing those same people who vote on this saw Shadow of the Erdtree as. Right? I don't think we're going to see a scenario next year or the year after or a few years after this where you're going to see a DLC and expansion in the contention for Game of the Year. Because, let's be honest, most DLCs and expansions aren't that good. They aren't good enough to be in contention with other full-priced like games. Like, even though I enjoyed Alan Wake's recent expansion, it was like only 2 hours long. And it was good, but it wasn't great. Right? So when you compare something that's 2 hours long to something, I don't know, it was like 30 or 20, and it was just like, there's really no comparison there. But this is, I think, a special exemption for it, and I don't really think we will see it repeated again. Now, if they had this category or this fix in years prior, yeah, then maybe last year Phantom Liberty would be nominated, because I think Phantom Liberty was absolutely stellar, right? People would say that maybe there'd be other, but most of the time, 90% of the DLC and expansions that do come out aren't good enough to be compared to any of the best games that come out in that year. But I think, for all the reasons I said, the love of Elden Ring, people love From Software, and this is that one time, one of those rare times that the DLC for this game can be put up against full-priced new releases of games releasing that year, that I'm perfectly fine with Shadow of the Erdtree being there. But with that said,
yeah, I'm fine with it.
I wish it had its own category, and then you could avoid this whole debate regardless. You could just be like, it's in the DLC category, you know.
So is there there's no DLC category?
No, there's no DLC category.
It's best ongoing game. Is that what they call it? Or?
Yeah. I mean, you have best ongoing. So the nominations for best ongoing are Destiny 2, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Helldivers 2. And it says, awarded to a game for outstanding development of an ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time.
See, that should be included in... That should include DLC, I would have thought. But...
Well, I mean, I think Cyberpunk won that last year.
So it does have its own category, kind of.
I think they kind of skate around what the terms mean. You know, I mean, I get. Could you make an argument that Shadow or Elden Ring should be nominated in the best ongoing category? I guess. I mean, if you could say the same thing about Cyberpunk. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's going to be another DLC or expansion that's going to be nominated for Game of the Year for a while, because they're just not that good. And you have this one time for this one thing here where it is that good and is better than most games, and in fact is top 5 of the year, which is why I think they made the exception this year. So I'm actually not... I'm fine and cool with the idea of Elden Ring Erdtree being there. I'm fine with it. Do I think it's going to win, though? That's the question. Because then, I don't know, I look at this list and I'm like, Astrobot, you know, there's a lot of people clamoring that this was going to be Game of the Year. And Metaphor came out, and a lot of people are like, no, this is Game of the Year. But then how exciting Balatro was. But then you added I don't think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Black Myth Wukong really stand a chance in this. I think it's really going to come down to, honestly, like those three: Astrobot, Metaphor, and Erdtree. But like the addition of Erdtree really kind of skews things because I could easily see people, if enough people wanted it there, that they changed the rules for it. That must be a large amount of people that wanted to win. So I could see it winning again. And I wonder how that would go over. I don't know. Interesting. But anyways, that's our thoughts on the Game Awards and the controversy going on around it. If you guys could do us a huge favor, hit the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel or if you like the show. Do us a solid and just hit that little button. Jez, we do have some shout outs here for the wonderful patrons I want to get to. You can sign up at the Patreon, patreon.com/XB2 if you want to, become a new member. It is on sale this month. We should be having another show I think on Wednesday, hopefully. And then obviously the regular Xbox 2 on Friday. And the question thread's open for anybody who wants to drop someone out there. But we got iMike0, Tier, Shrapnel, Inner Machine, Just James 93, Jay Peltier, Holy Dark Death, 09C Mine, James Wiseau, Trixar for Trey, Will Hernandez, Battered Haddock, Army Dude 52C, Ryan Kipple, Foreign Object, RS Donks, Rhino Thor 19, Silas, James Moore, Fantasticals, K-Trox, Bright Tundra 1, Discarded Caboose, Justin Duel, Frank Mariano, PB Broking, Ace of T and Madison, Governor Grimm, DZ Huffin, Wagerman, Achievement, The Scarecrow 121, Adam Bartolo, Darren Tropy, Prof JJJ, and Wolfgang KPZ. Thank you guys for supporting what we do here on the show. Jez, you want to do?
Hang on a sec. My phone's ringing. One sec.
Oh, your phone's ringing, huh? All right. Well, we'll move on from that. What's up, Fonz? Fonz has been one of those people saying that Shadow the Erdtree is game of the year. And I think he even said it was the game, Elden Ring's game of the gen. I wanted to say this to you, Fonz, but I didn't. But Cyberpunk's game of the gen, bro. And you didn't even mention it. You said Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring, but you skipped over the true game of the generation of Cyberpunk. And I was disappointed in that. I was disappointed that you forgot about it. So, what else is going on here? I don't know. Black Ops 6 getting skins from Xbox. Halo, Gears, and Doom. They should do this more, and maybe we will see more crossover stuff now that like Activision is integrated. There was the rumor, which it seemed like it was true, that Master Chief was going to come to Call of Duty, and it seems like it was one of those things. Jez, we're just talking about. I just wanted a small topic while you were gone about the rumor that Black Ops 6 is going to have not only Master Chief, not only Doomslayer, but Marcus Phoenix as skins within the thing.
Did that materialize?
It hasn't materialized, but there has been like some Call of Duty leakers talking about it, that these things are going to happen. And, we've always kind of like, oh, there needs to be more integration, more like, what about skins for this stuff and other games? And the rumor was that Master Chief was supposed to be in Modern Warfare 3, and it was delayed. So now, like, Black Ops 6, right? It's on Game Pass and all those great things. Which surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, but you had written an article that Xbox is the lead platform when it comes to engagement for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Because you had heard from your little sources.
Sources.
And that Phil Spencer came out and literally said that in one of these interviews. So
which interview did he say that?
He said that in the Rolling Stone one, I think. I don't know. He talked to like seemed like everybody this past week. So yeah, apparently Call of Duty's biggest engagement platform is Xbox. So I really wonder how many new subs they got off of that. And if any of the people who used to buy the game, who are now subscribing to Game Pass, are they spending more money in skins because they saved the $70? How long are they actually going to stay subscribed? Because it hasn't even been a month yet. I'd be very curious to see all the data on that stuff. And it's sort of a shame that Xbox doesn't give us a breakdown of all that stuff like PlayStation and Nintendo do, where like they kind of
we don't find out
all that
shit.
stuff down. Yeah, they're very like secretive about all their numbers and stuff, and you just got to take their word at it. But
yeah, I'm frankly surprised they even shared that Xbox was the lead platform for.
Well, I think maybe
stuff.
they saw the fact that people were sharing this thing about like the sales in the UK were like 10% or whatever, and it was like PlayStation was at 70 or whatever the number was, and they're like, oh man, nobody's playing this game on Xbox. But then, you know, you have Matt Piscatella that was every week being like, yo, the engagement for Call of Duty is like nothing we've ever seen before, and he's like every week being like, over half of the people on Xbox Series X and S are literally opening up Call of Duty. Like it was like 55% or something like that. So like more than half of the people playing on console and Xbox are playing Call of Duty, which is realistically like an absurd number when you think about it. Over half. I mean, I know like, you know, whatever the number is, that's like, probably like around 15 million people, which is a lot, right? If you take the number of consoles sold, what have you. So, I was going to ask you, are you ready for the Manscaped?
We are indeed, because Rand, my good buddy, we are once again sponsored by the fine folks over at manscaped.com. Huge thank you to them for sponsoring us as usual. Manscaped are running a big sale for Black Friday. They got tons of cool stuff over there. Like, it's worth checking out, and you can get like a further discount by using our checkout code XB2. So here we go. All right, ballers, it's time to get your game face on because Manscaped is dropping some serious heat this season. Meet the Chairman Pro package, the ultimate grooming kit to keep your face smooth and sharp, whether you're courtside or couchside. This kit's a dual threat, whether you want that clean-cut, baby-faced assassin look like Cody Rhodes, or you're going for that rugged stubble like your favorite power forward like Rand. The Chairman Pro gets it done. And it's not just about shaving. Oh no. The Power Shave Gel and Face Shave Soother make sure your post-game glow is just as smooth as your moves on the court. 2 interchangeable blades. The 4-blade foil and stubble trimmer. Perfect for switching between smooth or that sharp 5 o'clock shadow stubble. No more razor burn fouls. Flex Adjust technology adjusts to the contours of your face and is gentle on the neck area, making sure you hit every angle, every time. Get the Chairman Pro package today and score 20% off and free shipping with code XB2 at manscaped.com. Your grooming game will never miss a shot ever again. So yeah, that's the Chairman Pro package. And I have a Chairman Pro. It's a very, very handy travel shaver if you're someone who is sick of replacing razors all the time and all that good stuff. They've got a ton of deals going on right now. All the cool stuff for Black Friday, going into the holiday season. Tons of stuff that just makes for great gifts and all that kind of stuff. And if you do buy stuff from manscaped.com using the checkout code XB2, it supports the channel as well. So thank you very much to everyone who checks them out. And of course, thanks to Manscaped for supporting us.
That's right. Let me read a couple of super chats here. See what people are saying. We have Champagne Supernova says the Game Awards controversy. Who would have guessed Jeff looking out for Jeff? Industry has a problem with games being represented by the media and not the players. I mean, it is Jeff's show after all, right? So I don't think I'm pretty sure he has nothing to do with the nominations. I mean, he said that repeatedly. But also at the same time, it's
the people on the jury panel that decide the nominations. Jeff has no editorial oversight or influence on that, but he does choose who. He does ultimately choose who gets to be on the jury.
Yes,
panel,
that is
right?
true. That he does choose who's on the jury. So there's that. Alvin says Nintendo snubbed Earth is Healing. Well, I mean, did Nintendo release anything this year? I'm not really sure they did.
They did.
I mean,
Nintendo didn't get snubbed. They were in there for
the best family
Pokemon
game.
Trading Card. No, Pokemon Trading Card Pocket Mobile.
Yeah, but I also think almost all the nominations for best family game were Nintendo games except for Astrobot. like the Legend of Zelda game that came out, like Echoes of Zelda or whatever it was. So they had a couple nominations, unless Alvin's referring to Game of the Year. But like I said, did they release anything that was Game of the Year worthy? I mean, some would say, do they ever? Like myself, which would rile up Donataku and other Nintendo fans, which, I'm just joking. I know people love their Zelda and their 3D Mario and stuff. I mean, last year, they had 2 nominees last year. They had Zelda and they had Super Mario Wonder. So, and the year before, I think they had Metroid Prime Dread or Metroid Dread. So, I mean, usually they'll have one. But yeah, this year they didn't release anything significant, probably because they're holding off until Switch 2. And then, if they do launch a 3D Mario with the Switch 2 next year, you can guarantee that's going to be nominated. So you already have, like, you're already looking at like next year, when it comes to that stuff, and you can already point to if those games release, they're locks. Like when I was trying to figure out what would be nominated this year for Game of the Year, I figured Astrobot was a lock, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was a lock, and Metaphor was a lock. And I said, well, maybe they would, for the indie nom, you'd have Balatro, which actually happened. So it's like you had like 4 locks. So you basically then only had 2 other games fighting for everything, right? Where like next year, if everything kind of releases as planned, you already know Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to have one of those spots. And, whatever 3D Mario game launches with the Switch is probably going to have another. So that's 2 slots already, down. I would even imagine...
Wilds.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Wilds is probably going to be there.
Probably. It's going to be there and it's going to win.
Ghost of Yotai, considering Ghost of Tsushima was nominated, I could easily see Ghost of Yotai. So, I mean, you might already be looking at 3-4 nominations already, and we're not even in 2025 yet, based on how the panel feels about previous stuff, right? And it doesn't really matter because we know what's winning if it releases, and it's Grand Theft Auto 6. So every game that releases next year should hope that it gets delayed to 2026. We got Deku, who says, with the 10, can't forget, because of the time limit, Larian didn't have time to announce the Xbox release of Baldur's Gate 3. I want to see the devs get that trophy, hear from them, and then give me the game announcements. They were supposed to announce the Xbox port of the game, and they just didn't do it. I remember that, yeah. They probably Baldur's Gate 3, when they won Game of the Year, they were supposed to announce the Xbox port, but they forgot because you're in the moment. And I don't know, I sort of feel like that would be... That's not really a platform... I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't have... It kind of would have been a cringe announcement. Oh, we just won Game of the Year, by the way. I don't know. Maybe they could have made it work, but they didn't. Or they just forgot about it, which I'm not surprised. I mean, I don't know how your emotions would be flowing through you after the game you've been working on for years wins all these awards and stuff, and you're up there and you're speaking and you just forget. I mean, sometimes it happens to me too. Like that's why people write a speech. You're up there and you're talking, and then you're like, damn, I forgot to mention this. So we got Juan here for a 10. He says, I just hope for the day people pay more attention to other game award shows instead of the Keighleys. Every year there's a new complaint or a new drama, and looks like they don't listen to feedback. Mm-hmm. I mean, people have been saying, hey, support a real game award show like GDCs and stuff, but
the Windows Central Game Awards.
Or Jez's Windows Central Game Awards. But alas, people just want the world premieres. That's all they really care about. That's all why any of us watch. Ultraman with the 5 says, hey guys, I never watched the Game Awards. I find Jeff insufferable and biased. After Harry Potter and Forza Horizon 5, why would I bother? Politics have no place there.
Was Forza political?
I don't think Forza was political. I think the issue with Forza was that it was a racing game, really. That was the year, 2021, really wasn't a consensus. 2021 was a light year. That was the year It Takes Two won Game of the Year. And a lot of games, people felt that if any year Forza could have won, that would have been the year because there weren't a lot of front runners. But it didn't win, and I always say the reason it's not going to win or be not even nominated is because people don't view racing games or sports games like that. You know, there's none of that emotional investment. And I say that as like, well, I know there are actually car people out there that do get emotionally involved, but, you know, Forza's Forza. It's great. It dominates the racing genre, right? But I don't think you'll ever see a sports game or a racing game be nominated for Game of the Year because the people voting on it don't view the game in that way. And I remember you wrote an article about that.
Sure did.
Which angered a lot of people. You always anger a lot of people when it comes to your opinion pieces. Gets a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's always kind of
Gotta
funny.
break through eggs to make an omelet, though.
Yeah.
But you know, opinions are just that. Everyone's gone, right?
That's true. We have Champagne Supernova with the 5 who says, remember when Ori and the Will of the Wisps didn't get nominated for Game of the Year? Black Myth Wukong and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth performance issues, remember.
Ori didn't get nominated?
I think
That's
he means
nuts.
it didn't get nominated for, he says nominated for Game of the Year, which it didn't get nominated, but I believe it was nominated for in other categories. And it was my Game of the Year.
Yeah,
And it did launch with performance problems, which I think is one of the reasons why the review scores were at a 90 flat on Metacritic instead of higher because it did launch hot. It did launch with a couple performance stutters, which, you know, Black with Wukong and Final Fantasy VII sort of had. But I think me and Jez have always explained that if the game is really good, people tend to overlook performance problems. They'll shove them aside because, oh, the experience is so great. I mean, I'm sure you remember all the problems people had with Star Wars Jedi Survivor at launch, and yet it scored like mid-60s because people love the game. You're more willing to overlook problems a game has if it's actually good. And if the game's not good, then those performance issues exaggerates the issue. So exacerbates, yes. Ultraman with the 5 says, that's the problem. It's a Game Awards show, hence every game counts. I agree. Harry Potter should it have been nominated in that last year? Maybe. I think it was in my top 10. It was a lot better than I expected it to be. Did politics play a part in Hogwarts Legacy not getting nominated? Yeah, I could see it. There's definitely stuff surrounding that. The game last year for sure. Some people wouldn't talk about it. I could see that being an issue. So, oh man, Jez, can I just make fun of you just for 1 second here?
What? No, actually.
No, I can't.
Nah, go on then. I'll give you one.
Okay, so it finally happened. It finally happened. Remember how I used to give you shit about, hey?
Oh God, I know what's coming.
You should finish Persona 5 before I finish. But like, don't let me start Persona 5 and finish it before you. And you're like, oh, it's never gonna happen. Fine, I haven't started it yet. But what has happened is I have completed Dragon Age: The Veilguard before you have. Don't make this a trend, Jez. Do not make this a trend.
Congratulations, Rand. Congratulations. I had like 3 hours to play games this weekend.
Blah, blah. Yeah, you also had the game 2 weeks before I started playing it as well. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Got a job, bro. Got a job. God, it'd be even harder if I have a kid.
Oh God, could you imagine?
Work and then kid.
Could you imagine?
I just have to hand in my gamer card, man.
Like a young Jez Corden. I don't know if I could take it. I don't know if the world is ready for that.
He would be awesome. Or she.
He or she
would be awesome.
Yeah.
He or she would be awesome. Yeah, I think so. badass, I think. But yeah, I had no time, bro. I've been a busy boy. I'm working my way through it. I will say though, I'm struggling with Dragon Age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so bored. I'm so bored. I don't care about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about the plot. There's been some strong high points where it's like, oh, actually, that's pretty cool, and cool set pieces and stuff. And the combat was like, it was fun for a while, but now I've like kind of maxed out my build. I'm just kind of like, and I've changed my build up a few times to try and keep it fresh, but I'm struggling, Rand. I'm struggling. I feel that boredom settling in, and already new games are coming out very soon. Like Stalker 2 and other than Death Stranding was also dragged a bit of my interest a little bit there for a while, and I've been playing I've been playing Hollow Knight this weekend as
Yeah,
well.
Hollow Knight, a game out of nowhere. You just start playing. Yeah.
Well, I'm like 20 hours into Hollow Knight, and I just found a new area the other night. Well, because I was playing it on my Lenovo Legion Go, and Hollow Knight runs really well on that. So I was like, I'll play a bit of Hollow Knight, and I was like, oh shit, Hollow Knight's awesome. I forgot about this. So I can't just play one game, and also I have World of Warcraft to play.
Yeah, World of Warcraft. Yep. I'm just hearing a bunch of excuses. Is what I'm hearing. I wasn't even sure I was going to play Dragon Age.
Fuck you, Rand. Fuck you, Rand.
So
fuck you.
It's weird because
screw this. I'm gone.
There are points of Dragon Age that are really well done, but there are also points of Dragon Age that aren't. Right? It does have its really good moments. Like the end of the game, like that last act. I know it's been compared to some people have said it's always BioWare's best thing they've ever done. I wouldn't say that. But the end is pretty good. Right? High stakes, a lot of stuff going on. It's good. It's good. But with you, I also didn't care for all the characters, which is like the opposite of Mass Effect, actually. Where like I liked everybody in Mass Effect, but in this one, there are definitely characters I did not like. But there were characters I did like. I liked Emmerich a lot. The writing can just be completely. Sometimes it's really good, and you can tell like there's different writers writing different things because you can go from quests that have really good dialogue and banter between the characters to just some awful shit that just makes you like roll your eyes, and right? And it's just
so the villain delivery is quite good, I find.
Yeah, the villains are good.
The villains are decent, and their motivations are good, and Solus is good.
Yeah, Solus is actually by the end of the game, I was like, man, Solus is a very nuanced character. I mean, even though you kind of know what makes him tick and stuff, the way his voice actor presents it with the dialogue that's written for him, it's really good. The game, I don't know, I feel like the game's at its best when it's trying to be serious, and at its worst when it's trying to be like Marvel funny, with jokes and quips and stuff that don't quite hit the mark, and it just kind of mar everything. It did take me 60 hours to beat it. I did everything in the game, like all the companion quests, all the regular quests and stuff. So I saw like everything the game had to offer. And I'm happy I played it. And even though I didn't play any of the previous Dragon Age or really remember Dragon Age Origins, I did feel like some of the like reveals that happened later, I'd be like, "Oh, that's something that's supposed to be a big reveal." Like I could tell, like, okay, that's something that probably Dragon Age fans would be like really hyped about. And I do wonder if I had played the previous games and stuff, if I would feel better about this game or worse. Like, I know there's kind of the, like, some people are like, well, there's the baggage of being a fan and what you expect this. But I really do feel like the gameplay kind of really carried it. I loved my build with the mage I was using. And yeah, I don't know. Like, it's it's not in my top 5 because I didn't think it was good enough to be in that. And I'm not even really sure it's going to be in my top 10. But I did enjoy certain aspects of the game, and I did like the ending. I did feel like the final like 4 or 5 hours was really well done. And there are moments I'll remember, but then there's also moments where it's just like, ugh, you need to get some better writers, BioWare. And I don't know, I kind of wish that they had a different graphics style. Like, I don't know, like after playing for that long, I really kind of don't like how some of the characters look. Like, the world itself looks great, but I feel like that style didn't really do the characters justice. I think they could have looked better. I don't know. The way I'm talking about it kind of makes it sound like a mixed bag. Like, I enjoyed playing it, but it could have been so much better. So, it's like, yeah.
It is a solid 7 for me, and maybe even like a 6.8 or something like that. It's not an offensively bad game. It's just like every aspect of it is just kind of mid, and I don't think you can afford mid in today's times when there's so much competition out there and people's backlogs being what they are.
Yeah.
But that being said, like, for people who are fans of the Dragon Age franchise and want to see where these characters go, and they're really into the books and stuff like that, it is difficult at this stage in a franchise's life cycle to really appeal to all fans from every direction of a franchise, and I see a lot of Dragon Age fans who really love the game, and I don't want to detract from their experiences and stuff like that. But for me, and what I love about Dragon Age, and I am someone who loves Dragon Age, like Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite games of all time, especially my favorite game on 360 at the very least. But the franchise hasn't been like Dragon Age Origins for a really long time. And I find that, like, playing Veilguard made me realize that everything I loved about Dragon Age 2 or Inquisition were the times when it was like Dragon Age Origins. And I'm just kind of clinging to this sort of vision of BioWare which just no longer exists. And I'm scared that it's going to be the same kind of situation for Mass Effect as well. And it's fine to me that the game exists. Even the clunky, preachy stuff it tries to do, like a lot of that stuff, I think it does a disservice to the people it's trying to include. So I think they deserve better writing as well, frankly. But like, even if you disregard all that stuff and anything about it that you don't like the combat or the art style and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people do like it, and it has been clearly divisive. And I'm just gonna like accept that the franchise isn't for me anymore and probably just move on. And it just puts it's just a shame, man. It puts a big question mark over Mass Effect for me, whether that's gonna be for me as well. And it's fine if it's not for me. I got so much other stuff to play. But the jury panel and the Game Awards, they snubbed it as well, by the looks of it. For whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't think it got nominated. I mean, honestly, I'm fine with that.
I don't think it.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that too.
Honestly, I don't think it deserved anything. I mean,
I'll be completely honest. I don't think we see Dragon Age ever again as a franchise.
I think that's probably agree with you. I don't think. Well, they haven't said anything about sales, so I'm not sure how well it did. But I feel like maybe with some different choices on writing and maybe a different look on the graph. I mean, maybe people are talking about this game differently. There's just, I don't know. There are some things this game does incredibly well. And there are some missions that are really well done with some great level design and some great villain stuff and some great dialogue. But then it's also just as bad in some other areas.
It slips into Ubisoftification sometimes, where everything just feels plasticky and designed by telemetry or designed by checklist. And you end up in this sort of, like, there's just so much other stuff.
You want to talk about games that got snubbed? Where's my Prince of Persia at? That game should been on there. Prince of Persia should have been nominated instead of, I don't know what a game I'd remove. Maybe Black Myth Wukong. But then I didn't play Black Myth Wukong, so I don't know how good it is. But I'm saying, You know, you want to talk about
Black
snubs.
with Wukong?
Black Myth Wukong. You know, I would say Hellblade 2 got snubbed, but at least Hellblade 2 was probably nominated in the categories that it should have been, right?
I'm shocked that it was nominated at all.
No,
bro.
I'm not, because it was that good. Best narrative
No, it was-
and best actress, best performance. Like the two categories that it probably should have been nominated in were nominated
Okay,
in,
fair enough.
right?
She
I
gives
knew
a
it
good
never.
performance. I'll give her that. I'll give the game that. Good performance.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it would ever be nominated for Game of the Year, and I do think it was. I do think it was nominated for the two things it should have been nominated for. But yeah, Prince of Persia, where's that at? I know it was nominated for Best Action Adventure, but Prince of Persia should be Best Game of the Year. You know? And Silent Hill 2. Why isn't Silent Hill 2 Remake nominated for Best Game of the Year? I know it was nominated for Best Narrative, but that should have been easily up there. I don't know, maybe you slide out Astrobot? Maybe you slide out See, Elden Ring, the DLC kind of being included also screws stuff up, because you can say it's taking a spot of another game that released this year. So maybe if Elden Ring wasn't there, maybe Prince of Persia would have been, or something along those lines, right? Like Risk It for the Biscuit in chat says with the $2.99, Prince of Persia also didn't make the cut. Yeah. I mean, right now, that's my game of the year, and it's just like, I hope it wins Best Action Adventure, but probably not. So maybe it won't even get any recognition. The only recognition they get is basically Ubisoft told them to go make other games and be done with Prince of Persia. So, yeah. We have Cheesy Misqueezy. He says, good talk around the nominees, but I want to talk about what trailers and reveals at the Game Awards. Any ideas? Half-Life 3? New GTA 6 trailer? Heard anything, Jez? The Half-Life 3 thing is sort of funny, because there's a lot of Half-Life stuff going around now with the Half-Life 2. And was it Half-Life 2?
They gave it away for free, right?
They gave it away for free, but it's also, was it like the anniversary edition or something? Because it's...
Yeah, the anniversary.
There's
of
just
the
suddenly
game.
a lot of stuff around Half-Life, so it's like, could we see a Half-Life 3? Like the long-awaited...
Gabe Newell gave some comments on it where he was like, if we just did Half-Life Episode 3 and called it at that, we would have done a disservice to our customers. And it's kind of like him saying, like, yeah, we want to do a real Half-Life 3.
I mean, they did Half-Life Alyx,
DLC.
which a lot of people say is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, VR game ever.
Yeah, but VR, no one cares.
But nobody
about
cares
VR.
about VR. So what are you going to do? GTA 6, let's be honest, Rockstar is bigger than the Game Awards. They can drop their trailer at any point in time. Doesn't matter, right? And it's funny, they have the most anticipated category for the Game Awards, and it's like all these games and then Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, you know what's going to fucking win. It's not probably the point to even having a most anticipated game category. Like, it's literally going to be GTA 6. I don't know.
What about something from Xbox Game Studios?
Well,
You know,
yeah.
something that's coming out next year.
Yeah, I mean,
Like a Fable, maybe.
Oh, you think you could... Well, the thing with... The stuff that's hard with Xbox this time is because the last 2 years they've done a January Dev Direct. Right? And
That's true.
so, you know, it's like, are you going to give Jeff something for next year when you might just be doing your own thing in a month? So, like, you know, for example, Avowed, right? Avowed's coming out. They just had their pre-order trailer. There's a $90 version that also comes with 5-day early access and a bunch of like digital skins and stuff. No expansion, which I was kind of surprised about. But there's that trailer. I don't really think Avowed shows up at a January Dev Direct, because they already had one and we've seen a lot of the game already. So it's like, could we see Avowed show up at the Game Awards with the new trailer? You know, showcasing the release date, February 18th, and being like, here's Avowed, it's coming out soon.
I think that could work.
Do we have South of Midnight, right? Because South of Midnight just released their documentary this past week. You know, Xbox was kind of rolling. They had so much stuff, because it wasn't just South of Midnight. Indiana Jones had their gameplay deep dive. There was the World of Warcraft Direct. We're going to talk about all this stuff, but like when you look at South of Midnight, does that seem like the next release from Xbox after Avowed? We know it's Avowed in February 18th, But with the stuff that's going on, right, with them inviting creators like Paris to visit the studio and have these preview things where they talked about what they saw, and then you have this documentary that they made. It almost seems like that's like the next game up. Like maybe May. I know there's that like vinyl record thing that's releasing April 30th. So is that like a leaked release date? Well, if you're releasing music and all that stuff from South of Midnight, is that also like when the game's kind of supposed to release around that time frame? So are we looking at like April, May for South of Midnight? And would they release a trailer? The thing is, like, would they release a trailer for South of Midnight that shows the release date during the Keighleys when they're probably also going to show South of Midnight a month later at the Dev Direct? And would you rather showcase that game off and reveal the release date at your own thing rather than Jeff's? I guess maybe that's the question. Like, what would you rather do? Because if I don't know, I doubt we'd, like, in my mind, the Dev Direct for next year is Fable, the Doom, the Dark Ages, South of Midnight, and shit, I don't even know the fourth. Let's just go with those three, and then the fourth could be maybe Oblivion remake, remaster, maybe Forza Horizon 6. I don't know. I'm just throwing names out there. But the games that Microsoft has announced this year, there's been 4 of them, with one being Avowed. It's like, I feel like we won't get a release date for Doom or Fable in January. But it does feel like we're close to knowing South of Midnight. So the question is, do you give that to Jeff and then not have any release date announcements at the Dev Direct? I don't know. What do you think about that?
I suppose it could go either way. I mean, you could even do like a teaser trailer. If you didn't want to give Jeff too much, but something, you could do a teaser trailer for like a smaller game that maybe you're revealing next year that nobody knows about. For example, or if they are doing a Dev Direct in January, which they pretty much most likely are.
Yeah.
Maybe that's going to be for a bigger game that's launching later in the year, like a Fable, something to give people a deep dive into what to expect there, or a talk from the team ahead of like a more sort of, I don't know, a bigger gameplay blowout in June or something ahead of its launch for the fall. Because I've heard some good things about Fable, and I think that's probably going to be hopefully going to be a moment for Xbox when they drop Fable.
Yeah.
I think.
What do you think about South of Midnight? They released a documentary. They showed some more gameplay. Did that make you more interested or less interested in the game?
I mean, I've always sort of maintained the sort of, I don't know, a baseline level of interest. I thought it looked cool from the get-go, So, I'm the same level of hype as I was before, I would say. I think the game looks really good, looks fantastic, and I also like the setting. Like it's something that isn't traversed very often, I suppose. American folklore in that sort of, in that kind of vein. I'm intrigued by the setting. I just hope that the gameplay feels good and feels tight, because the way gameplay looks on screen isn't always how it feels when it's in your hand and in the controller. And that, I think that was particularly true of We Happy Few. When you play We Happy Few, at least at launch, it played a lot different than it looked, and it caught a lot of people off guard. So I think my cynicism's holding me back from becoming a full-blown hyped for it, but I'm still quite optimistic for that game. I'm hoping that next year Microsoft just nails everything it's going to release, and like not just like it's average, but actually like above average. Because I think there's still this sort of stigma that Xbox has from stuff like Redfall or Crackdown, or especially in the core community, especially people who are setting narratives and discussing things on shows, and have this sort of perception that Xbox can't deliver. And it'll take more than a single year of consistency to change that identity that Xbox has built up for itself around core story-based kind of games, right? I think that'll take time to fix. But I'm hoping that next year is the year where we start to see definitively, oh, Xbox is they're hitting their stride now, and they are delivering consistently. I hope South of Midnight, we can say that about South of Midnight, that it won't just be like a sort of a smaller game from a smaller team, getting used to making games on that level. Because I think that for Xbox, the time is well past that. I think we're well beyond like waiting at this point. I think next year has to be. They have an opportunity to shut a lot of people up, I think. So
yeah, I watched a little bit of the documentary. They seem to be very passionate about the game, and I was really kind of just looking for what the gameplay. I wanted to see more of the gameplay. And I think the game looks really cool. I'm very, very excited to try this out whenever it does release next year. And I'm almost to the point where like I want to eat crow. Where I've been such a compulsion hater in the past that I want them to be like, yeah, Rand, fuck you. Like, you were wrong about us. Look what we made. Because at no point did I think they were going to make something like that. Like, at no point on my bingo card, I'm like, yeah, it's third-person Metroidvania, kind of, looking game. So, and like Deep South, Gothic Tale, like, it's really kind of ringing a lot of the right things for me. So I am pretty excited to play that whenever it does come out. And hopefully for them, they can prove, to the world, why, Xbox purchased them. Because at the time, it just seemed like they were available and Xbox had some money, and it was just like, hey, we got $10. You want to join us? And like, sure. Right? But yeah, it looks really cool. I really like the design. I know it's targeted in 60 frames. I think the campaign's supposed to be around 12 to 15 hours, excluding like exploration type stuff, so it could be longer. You can turn off the I forget what it's called, the effect on the character, where the character is like rendered at 30 FPS, but the game world runs at 60. It's kind of that Spider-Man Spider-Verse look. I forget what the actual terminology is, or what the stop motion, right? You can actually turn that off in game, and I actually saw a lot of people talking about that. About I wish you could turn this off. As an accessibility issue, they let you. Although I think they did say that it will be on during cutscenes. And everybody in the chat's telling me stop motion. Yes, thank you guys. So yeah, I mean I still think Fable's probably my most anticipated, just because I'm so curious. Like, it's easy just to say Doom, right? Because we know what Doom is, and we know that Doom's gonna be great, right? It's delivered 2 times before, so it's easy to be like, Doom's gonna be fucking rad, and we know it's gonna be rad, right? We have faith in the developers. They haven't made a bad game with Doom, so it's like. But with Fable, I look at it, I'm just like, man, there's so much unknown. Like, we've only had the 2 trailers to look at. Well, 3 trailers, technically, I guess. But really just 2. And, I'm kind of like, man, I want to see...
Man, you're killing me. You're killing me, Rand.
I know. I want to see, like, gameplay. I want to see, like, quest structure. And maybe we will see that in January. Maybe we don't get along to wait. Right? Where it's just like...
Fuck it. I saw it.
Are you going to literally say it? You told me not to say
this.
It.
I saw it. Yeah, I fucking saw it. I saw
Fable. You saw Fable? Yeah.
I saw it, yeah. I saw gameplay of Fable recently.
Okay. And how did it look? It's funny because I was talking about like why. Well, you're the one who said not to mention that you saw it, and here you are saying that you saw it. So how did it look?
Okay, so I very recently saw some alpha gameplay footage from Fable. I have no idea when it was from. I don't know if it was earlier in development. I don't know if it was recent. I don't know if it's something they're going to show off soon, but it looked fucking fantastic, man. It looked fucking fantastic. Okay, so you can tell that this game has CD Projekt Red DNA.
Uh-huh.
So the developers, Playground Games, they picked up a bunch of developers for CD Projekt Red, and I believe they picked up the combat designer. And you can kind of tell, I'm not saying it's 100% one-to-one with Witcher, because it's not, right? But you can kind of tell that melee combat, the sort of the pirouettes and the dodging and the dodge rolling and the seamless, like, hack and slash into an execution, which looks really, really cool. All that stuff is there. Like, it looks super polished, it looks super good. And if this was early gameplay, then like it probably looks even better now than from what I was shown. Um, and and beyond that, there was also there was a lot of mixing, like, again, like a bit like Geralt. And again, it's not one-to-one with Geralt, so don't think that. But there was also like mixing in of different weapon types. So there was like pulling out a bow and arrow, and also like dropping spells. I saw a spell that was like lifting up a group of dudes off the ground and slamming them, like almost like
I think
telekinesis style.
there was a spell like that briefly in the last trailer. He's like lifted something up and then she slammed it down. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Well, I also saw some enemies. I saw like a giant chicken, for example.
Of course, gotta have chicken in Fable.
Yeah, giant chicken. So like I kind of thought like cockatrice kind of thing, but it actually it looked like a chicken. That sort of comedic angle, but also not. Like, it looked like a dangerous fucking scary chicken, dude. So it and also I saw a werewolf. There was a scene where they lure a werewolf with bacon and eggs and and sausages in a saucepan. I was going to say chips, but they basically cook a werewolf a full English breakfast to lure it out of its lair. Is kind of the impression that I got there. But yeah, it looked really great, man. The combat looked really tight. I also saw a variety of weapons. I saw a big mallet thing, which was, was being used to swing around, hit multiple enemies at once. It looked super good, super tight, and my hype level went up a lot from seeing that stuff. So yeah, that's why I'm so bullish on Fable now, and I think like this is gonna be. I'm hoping, if like the brief flicker of pre-alpha gameplay slice that I saw, and it kind of reminds me of when I saw Fable Avowed really early, and I was kind of like, there's something here, it looks really good. It's different with Fable. Like, you can see the polish already. You can see like the expertise and the animation quality and the acting quality, and it just sort of feels like those AAA core story-driven action games that have eluded Microsoft up to this point. So I'm letting my imagination run wild here a little bit, because obviously I only saw a tiny little bit, and but yeah, from what I did see, it left a very strong positive impression on me. So
Was the
I would hope that in that case, the fact that this kind of stuff is starting to sort of percolate through some communities now, that do share internal stuff, that it might indicate that we're going to get a trailer or a direct or something in that vein in the near term, maybe. But it's hard to say, I have no idea where the gameplay's from. I have no idea when it's from. I have no idea what the original source is even. But it was just clearly that it's a step up from anything we saw previously. So I'm hyped, man.
Same character, or did you notice like it was maybe a creator character?
It was the same character that everyone's seen.
Yeah.
But I have heard that you will at least. I heard this. I was told this at an event. I think I was told this at Summer Game Fest, that you will be able to select a character, maybe, like a male or female. So we haven't seen the male model yet. So maybe if they did do a direct, they'd be like, okay, and here's the male actor, But yeah, it was the same character that people have seen already. But I am. It looked really good, man. I'm not going to share the footage or anything, because it's way too early. And I think it'd be better if I remember when people complain like, "Oh, this game looks bad," because they're watching it on a low bitrate YouTube stream. It's better when you'll see the trailer in 4K. So I'm not going to share that bit. But look out for the giant chicken and all the shit that I talked about.
Riskit in the super chat says Fable delayed to 2026. I guess he thinks it's going to be delayed. I mean, there's always a possibility for sure, especially if it's targeting the end of the year. I mean, we'll see how the end of development goes. I mean, it could.
That's true.
You never know. Cheesy McSqueezy says, "Does Fable look like gameplay from the June trailer?" You probably
Yes.
have to watch the June trailer. Okay, so
like, I think like there was a lot of back and forth last time about like whether the gameplay footage that they showed off was pre-rendered or whatever. But I think it looked like that, you know. But you could also tell it was in engine, you know. You could tell there was a human controlling the character. So yeah, it looked really good, man. There was a part where I was really impressed with the swordplay, like the parrying, the dodging, and then like the parry into like an execution, like running the sword right through this dude's chest. I was like, oh bloody hell, that's quite violent. That's what I like to see, is a bit of violence. You guys all know that. So yeah, I thought it looked pretty good, and I think it, like if they nail the combat, the visuals, the tone, the writing, I think Microsoft will finally have like they'll have raised the bar for themselves, and I thought it looked great. I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you, I wasn't talking about Fable to get you to spill it, but you just can't really keep a secret sometimes, can you?
Well, the issue with this is that like I've seen it pop up in a few places now, and like a few sources have sent it to me and stuff like that. So it's like I don't know how. I feel like maybe this is I was wondering, has this gone out to the Game Awards, and is that why it started coming out now? But I don't know. I don't know if this was even meant for public consumption. It looked like a vertical slice kind of deal, or bits that had been edited together for like a little showcase thing. There was a huge alpha gameplay thing on it and stuff like that. So I have no idea where it's from. I have no idea how old it is, like I said, but I thought it looked great. I thought it looked really good. So I'm pretty excited.
Excellent. We also have one here from Cheesy McSqueezy. Contraband, Project Mar, Everwild, Outer Worlds. I guess he's running through games that maybe could be at the Game Awards or at the Dev Direct. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you figure it's probably time to show Contraband and Everwild for sure. Outer Worlds, I don't know, because they're still probably mostly focusing on Avowed for now. So Outer Worlds maybe not. Or maybe we see that at the June showcase. But yeah, I'm very interested in seeing what Contraband is.
I heard they're still working on it. When Phil was touring recently, like I heard that one of the studios they did meet up with was, because I remember Phil and Sarah were posted a series of images from all the studios they went to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys saw that, but I heard that one of the studios they did meet was Avalanche to discuss Contraband, which has hit milestones. So it does sound like it's still ongoing, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see it sooner rather than later. But I got a feeling the pandemic did that game dirty, because Sweden was uniquely hit by the pandemic.
Yeah.
First they were like, oh, we're not doing lockdowns, and then they were like, oh, actually, shit, we need to do lockdowns, and then like, there was a whole thing about Sweden, the pandemic. I think they were one of the countries that managed it the worst in Europe. So, but yeah, that was 5 years ago. Actually, the pandemic started 5 years ago. I was talking to someone about it, and they were like, "Do you know that was 5 years ago?" And I was like, "No way, was it 5 years ago? It was literally 5 years ago that shit started, bro. 5 years ago."
I know, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It is crazy.
Anyways. Oh, you know what YouTube just approved? Finally?
Oh, gifting memberships?
Yeah. I just got an email from them saying there was something wrong with my account, but they just approved it. Weird. All it took was an email to YouTube. All right, well, fair enough.
I feel like I've been telling you to just email
them.
Yeah,
but I had before, and they didn't I don't know, maybe I emailed the wrong person. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyways,
there you go. Fixed.
yeah, so that's fixed. Let's see what else.
That was a hint to gift Rand all
no,
the
it's not. It was
subscriptions.
just something to fix because it was broken.
Did you just gift yourself subscriptions?
They allow you to gift 10 per month for free.
Oh,
like you
I did
like
not
you
know
as
that.
a channel creator can do that. Yeah, I mean,
I did not know that. Huh.
let's see.
So there you go.
What else we got here? We have Cheesy McSqueezy says most likely Doom, Fable, or something new for Xbox. Maxi Coleman says, "Hello, is this an Xbox?" Yes, this is an Xbox podcast.
This is an Xbox.
Yes. Chris Lewis says, "Hello, my Chicagoland bro. I'm loving the weather right now. It makes the warehouse cooler, and rain sounds nice on the roof. Hope you two have a good day." JF says, "Would Elden Ring be in the first ever 2-time game of the year?" I mean, I guess so if it won. And I don't know how to say this. I'm just going to say one. He says, "There are rumors about the next Half-Life game codename HLX. And if data mined and reported stuff are to be believed, then it's much further in development than Episode 3 or known canceled Half-Life 3 iterations." I mean, I would love if there was a Half-Life 3. So, I mean...
Would it release on console, though? Or would it be exclusive to SteamOS?
Yeah, I don't know about that. They did release the orange box on Steam. Or on everywhere.
Xbox.
Everywhere.
Yeah, that was a million years ago.
And Half-Life Alyx was exclusive to just... It didn't come to PSVR 2 like a lot of people said it was, right?
Which is funny, right? Because Valve will have gotten all of Xbox's games, all of PlayStation games, but they ain't giving back. That'll be the ultimate troll. That'll be like the mega troll. That'll be the Gabe Newell special of not bringing Half-Life to the consoles. And I can see it happening. Because what, do they need to? Not really.
They don't need to, but maybe they would want to. Did the new CSGO come? I don't think it did it? Like CSGO 2?
I have no idea.
I don't think it did. I mean, there is a CSGO game on the platform, but I don't think the newest one's
Nobody
there.
plays it.
I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I'm kind of 50-50. Let's see what else we got here. Blizzard's hiring for an open world shooter, which, there were rumors suggesting, and even this is something that Jason Schreier reported, that Dan Fay, who was kind of in charge of the Far Cry franchise, after the shutdown and cancellation of Project Odyssey, which was their survival game, that the people left on that team kind of went off to start making their own shooter. And there's actually job postings for it, so looks like that's legit. The question is, will we see it ever? Hopefully, because it sounds cool. I'm down for it, right? World of Warcraft, though, Jez, they had a direct this week.
Oh, ye of
Or
little
this past
faith.
week.
Will we see it ever?
I
Yes,
hope
they did
so.
have a direct.
I hope we do, because I don't know, an open world shooter from Blizzard could be right up my alley. Granted, sometimes Blizzard, I don't know, they got World of Warcraft with meh, Overwatch, Diablo, so maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure you'll love it though. But World of Warcraft had a direct because they're part of Xbox now. What was the big thing shown off there?
Player housing.
Player housing.
Player freaking housing. So in World of Warcraft, you'll be able to build your own house, live in it, put trophies in it. I've been waiting 20 years for this, Rand. 20 freaking years, bro. But I thought what was interesting about this was the fact that Blizzard says they've got an entire team dedicated to this feature, and also they've got a 20-year plan for it. They want player housing to be a thing for 20 years. So that made me wonder, is this going to be more than just a little side feature? Are they trying to build their own version of Second Life or something like that? Is this going to be World of Warcraft's Animal Crossing mode? But yeah, that was the big thing. I can't explain to anyone who isn't a Warcraft player why it matters. So let's swiftly move on.
Okay. So
You want to build a Warcraft house?
No, I don't. But I do want to talk about Indiana Jones because they showed off that 14-minute gameplay deep dive. Game comes out on December 5th, I think. December 6th. And I'm loving everything I've seen of Indiana Jones. But I mean, I didn't get to play it like you did. And
I played it.
That always kind of struck me as a game that you wouldn't care for, but you came across as somebody who really loved what they saw. But like, I guess my concern, like,
I didn't see it. I played it.
I know you played it.
I did, bro.
My concern from watching the footage, like, I'll talk about the positives. I think Troy Baker does an excellent job of imitating Harrison Ford, right? So, like, not only does it look like Indiana Jones, it actually sounds like Indiana Jones. And I thought maybe initially when they were saying, oh, it's first person, I would have a problem with that. Not that I don't mind first person games, but something always in the back of my mind was always like, Indiana Jones got to be third person. Got to see the character, got to see the hat. And in my mind, I was always like, well, maybe if you make it more like Uncharted or Rise of the Tomb Raider, the two games that basically stole from Indiana Jones, you'd want to copy them. But, they talked about the love of the movies and how this is really kind of their homage to the movies and stuff. Where, Indiana Jones not Nathan Drake, and he's not Lara Croft. He's not someone who uses Lara. He's not someone who uses guns like that, like they do, to just kill thousands of people. Right? He uses them very sparingly. He's mostly kind of, uses his whip or uses his fisticuffs to get around. And there's a lot of exploration and solving. So when I was watching the footage, I was like, okay, puzzle solving, check, because you figure you got to have that. And I was like, well, man, this actually looks like it works in first person. And it does go to third person when you're, swinging around on the whip or climbing ladders and stuff. So you do get to see them. There are 3 hours of cutscenes, which is a lot. Which is longer than any Indiana Jones movie, because I think most of the Indiana Jones movies are 2 hours. So just from the cinematics itself, there's going to be quite a bit. The one thing I like, loving the locations, the puzzles, all that stuff. The stealth approach, I appreciate. I may be one of the few people in the world who appreciates stealth these days, apparently.
You sure are.
The one thing I was sort of worried about was the focus on melee combat, and if that would get old after a while. Like, are there enough variations of that so where, the first time you engage in a fight and then the 100th time you engage in the fight with just your fists, could that kind of lose interest for people or myself, where it's like, oh, I gotta get into another fist fight. I'm like over the mechanics. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you do something so much, you're just worried about what it's gonna be like, 20 hours later.
Well, that was my only concern when in my article. It was like, I'm curious how repetitive the combat might feel after a million hours. But the thing is, there's a huge variety of weapons, and like every time you go to a new area, there's like contextual weapons that are relevant to the place you're in. Like, I killed a dude with an umbrella, for God's sake. So it's like, I kind of feel like they introduce new ways to interact with the game as you're moving through it. And if they're able to do that across the whole game and not just the bit that I played, I don't think it's going to get repetitive. But could definitely be wrong on that one, because obviously I haven't seen the full game and what they're planning to offer there and all that kind of stuff. So, but I'm pretty bullish on that game. And you're right, I wasn't expecting it to be something that I would enjoy. It is helping me a lot that it is Indiana Jones. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I also don't like walking simulators, generally speaking, but when there's a really strong interactive element, and it's, it doesn't feel like a walking simulator anymore. And this is a stealth game. Like, don't get it wrong. Like, this you do a lot of walking, investigating, and things like that. But it is not. It is not. It is not a walking simulator by any stretch of the imagination. It is most definitely a stealth game, stealth action game with a gun and strategy and all the things that you'd expect to come into play when you are playing a stealth game. So I think it's really good. I'm just really eager to play it at this point, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we won't get long to wait, right? So,
Nope.
I can't wait. And the fact that it's supposed to be like longer, it's not going to be a short experience, or at least going for 100%, which is something I typically try to do in most games. So it
I
seems
had
like
20 hours for a 20 hours for a regular playthrough and 30 hours for completionists is what I heard.
Excellent. See what else we got here.
Speedtor says, what are people's prediction score for Indiana Jones? What's your review score? What's your review score prediction for Indiana?
I don't know. I need to play
based
it.
on what we know so far.
I need to play it first. I haven't played it, so it's tough to judge. I would say right now, if I had to guess, I would say low 80s. Like 82 or something.
Fair enough.
Because I can I'm going to tell you there are people that aren't going to like the stealth stuff, just like there weren't for Star Wars, right? A lot of people complained about the stealth in Star Wars, so I think they'll complain about that. I think there'll be reviewers that don't like the fact that it's melee focused over versus like using a gun. So I think that might impact some review scores. I think the people that maybe love Indiana Jones might rate it higher because they might be more invested in the character and the story that it's telling. That there's a lot of factors, and I just don't know. I mean, I haven't played it myself, so it's tough to say, right?
Okay.
And as Jesse James says, we can all basically count on PC Gamer for giving it a 4 out of 10. Which is true. Like PC Gamer will probably give it a bad score. Yeah. So
I hate that you can predict that.
Sometimes I'm pretty good at predicting stuff if I get my hands on it. If I can get my hands on it and play it, I can be like, okay, this is where I feel it's going to be. Because remember when
but like you can predict certain outlet scores, is what I'm saying.
Sometimes you can. Well, it depends also on like who's reviewing it at the outlet, right? So, and then the Machine Games is usually a very solid dev. The Wolfenstein games are, except for Youngblood, are rated pretty high.
Did they even make that though?
They co-dev'd it with Arcane. I don't know who was. I'm not sure who did the brunt of the development, whether it was Arcane or whether it was Machine Games, but they were both involved in it, right? So
they're both to blame, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they're both to blame.
I hate that game, dude. I hate that game so
much.
Wolfenstein
Youngblood, especially when you compare it to Wolfenstein, The New Order, or Wolfenstein, was it Wolfenstein The Old Order, or Wolfenstein The New Colossus? It's definitely a downgrade in every way. Right.
I think that was, in essence, a product of Bethesda panicking. They were like, "Oh shit, we need service games. We don't have any. Oh shit, quick, make a multiplayer Wolfenstein. Go!" And they were like, "What? How do we do that?" And they were just like, "Figure it out, motherfucker. We got 5 minutes to do this." I think that game has panic, sweat, smell all over it.
Yeah, it does. Right. Let me take a look. We have. Risk It for the Biscuit wants to know how much we think the next Xbox will be.
$700.
$700, or you're going to expect? Well, I mean, there's a lot of is a tariff going to have to? Are we going to have to think about tariffs? Is that something that's going to be a factor in the pricing?
$700 without tariffs. $800 with tariffs.
Oh my god!
In fact, $2,000 with tariffs.
Oh Jesus!
$2,000, bro. And also a pint of blood.
I could easily see the system starting at 600 as like the low end. Like here's the thing, it's $600. But I don't know. There's too many. We need to see what happens with the tariff stuff, because if that does happen, maybe that does have an effect.
Yeah.
Dead Planet with the 5 says, what would Xbox do if, say, for whatever reason, next gen sold really well at the start? Would anything make them rethink exclusivity? I don't think anything's going to make them rethink exclusivity outside of
A collapse in
monthly
Xbox
active
console
users.
engagement.
Yeah, like monthly active
Yeah.
users like dying on Xbox. Then maybe they would.
Yeah, the only thing that'll make them reconsider is if Xbox users go down, and so far, that ain't happened. So,
Yes.
in fact, I was pretty much told that in essence at Summer Game Fest. I was pretty much told like we've not seen users go down, and if we did, then we might change tag, but we haven't seen that happen so far, and hopefully it doesn't, because I don't think you can come back from that, to be honest.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult to. So, let's talk about the Xbox stuff, because there's a lot here. I figure we'll talk about the marketing campaign first, because you just wrote an article about this, and it kind of does seem like this is the I don't want to say breaking point, but a lot of people had a lot of feelings for this, right? Like there were some people that were outraged over this as an Xbox ad. Like completely outraged, talking about it's the biggest cringe of all time. It's like an ad that basically says Microsoft is going third party, what have you. Like there's a lot of opinions based around an ad campaign. And I have my own, and I'm sure you do too. But this for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Microsoft, what day was this? Wednesday, I think? Wednesday or Thursday? Maybe it was Thursday. They debuted a new ad campaign where somebody was playing on console. It's a 30-second ad, mind you. Somebody's playing on their console, and it says, like, this is an Xbox, and then they're kind of, like, on their phone, and then it says, this is an Xbox. And they're on PC, and it says, this is an Xbox, right? So it kind of goes through all the different ways you can engage with Xbox in the ecosystem where Xbox is at. Mobile phones, TVs, right? And there's even like a print ad where they have like, they show the console and they say this is an Xbox, and they say, hey, this is an Xbox for your lap, and it shows a laptop. This is an Xbox where you can take calls, and they show a mobile phone, and there's like, this is a cat box with the cat, because you gotta have that humor in it, right? You gotta have that little funny laughs, right? This is a bento box, aha, funny, right?
Did you laugh? Did you laugh?
No.
No.
Oh. I didn't, but maybe there were people that did. So basically, it was going through all the different.
3 people.
This is an Xbox you can hang on the wall, and it was a picture of a smart TV. This is an Xbox built to the side, whatever they said for the Fire Stick, right? And it really blew up on social media. You could make the argument that there's maybe, in that regards of being seen, maybe one of Microsoft's best ad campaigns, considering everybody was talking about it, everybody was sharing it, to the point where even my family members had heard about it, and they're not someone who really follows the gaming stuff. So
that is impressive.
Yeah, so maybe they always say like there's no such thing as bad press, right? So all that stuff added on, people sharing it, people talking about it, maybe it helped reach more people that didn't know anything about this, because we all assume everybody is as clued in about this stuff as we are. And I always kind of think, well, maybe there's some people out there that don't know Xbox, that you can play Xbox games on your phone, or Xbox games on your PC, or Xbox games on your, or even that, you can do that on the Fire Stick, right? But how did you take this? You wrote an opinion piece today that, a lot of people agreed with you. A lot of people also disagree with you. I saw some like Sicka Mechanico, Cloburl, for example, disagreed with you on your opinion, which is, hey,
I sure did.
That makes the world great, is that people disagree on stuff. Otherwise, it'd be boring if everybody agreed and liked the same shit. So, what's your takeaway about this ad? How do you feel about it?
Well, the thing is, right, I am someone who is active in the ecosystem. And I don't just mean the console ecosystem. I'm someone who plays on Xbox for PC. I've got a Lenovo Legion Go. I use cloud often. I'm not like you, Rand, who considers Xbox to be the only box for them and hates anything that's got the word app attached to it, hates social media.
That's
Basically what I'm saying
that's
is
not
I'm
true. That's not
cool. I'm
true.
hip and cool.
That's
No,
not true.
I'm hip
I'm
and
just saying I
I'm hip and
don't
cool, Rand.
look.
I'm not
I
old fashioned like you. Okay,
the
is
thing
what I'm
is, but
saying
the
here.
thing is, like, I don't need to play a game on my phone. I don't want to play a game on my phone, right? Like, I understand why you do it, and I understand why other people do it, but I'm not someone who's like banging on the door like this is the only thing that matters.
Okay,
This is it.
well,
Like, I understand, variety is the
okay.
spice of life. It just ain't
Yeah,
it
yeah,
ain't for
yeah.
me. Is all I'm
Look,
saying.
look, look, look. All I'm saying is I'm illustrating that I'm hip and cool, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
hip and cool, and I am the people. I am the I represent the people in the advert.
Do you?
The young
You mean
people
the
who are
old? I
playing
didn't know
games
there
with
was
their
old people.
friends. Well, yeah, I'm hip and cool, basically, is what I'm saying, right? And I'm in that ecosystem, and I literally what they talk about in that ad, I literally did this past weekend. I went friend's place when we all played together. I was on my Lenovo Legion Go, and there was two Xboxes set up, and we could crossplay, Call of Duty. That's what the ecosystem represents, and that's why I love the ecosystem. I love the vision. I love what they're going for. However,
Hmm.
and this is a big caveat with a big strong however, and this is my only point really on this, is that I think the ad campaign's great. I really do. I think the ad campaign's great. It's forward facing. I think it is something that will reach the masses. My issue is one of timing. I think this is poorly timed
Mm.
because right now, all the stuff I talk about, like playing games, Asus ROG Ally is an Xbox. Is it though? My phone is an Xbox. Is it though? Cloud still has a beta tag on it. You're marketing a beta now? Because that's basically what they're saying here. All the stuff they're talking about in those ads, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, this is an Xbox, is a hardcore early adopter experience. They're confusing setup, especially for normies, which is who this campaign is aimed at. They're lacking in content. Not many games have Xbox Play Anywhere. Asus ROG Ally and Lenovo Legion Go, the experience of playing Xbox games on those systems is subpar, very subpar compared to playing it on an Xbox console. So I'm kind of like, if I'm someone who is deciding what ecosystem they want to invest in, if I'm someone who Microsoft's trying to reach with this system, and someone sees an ad, someone's on the bus and they see an ad, there's the Samsung Galaxy Fold, which is the phone they use for some reason, which is absolutely ridiculous in my mind because not a single one of those controller clips actually fits the Galaxy Fold, which goes to show that Microsoft themselves are even confused about what this represents, right? Um, if someone with the Galaxy Fold comes to me who saw their phone represented on screen as being an Xbox, and they're saying to me, "Oh, how is this an Xbox?" And I'd be like, "Okay, well, what you got to do? You got to go to xbox.com/play. You've got to pin the app to your home screen. Then you've got to pair a controller. But the problem with the Galaxy Fold is that there's no controllers that fit the Galaxy Fold because it's too fucking big. So what you've got to do is then you've also got to buy an Xbox controller. Then you've got to pair that with Bluetooth. And then you've also got to buy a special cover for the Galaxy Fold that's got a kickstand on it because you can't hold a phone and an Xbox controller at the same fucking time. So you're telling me, right, that clunky, subpar mess of an experience, which is the Xbox on the Galaxy Fold, you're telling me that's Xbox? That's what Xbox wants to represent? That's what Xbox wants to showcase with this ad campaign? Fuck no. It's too damn early. It's a cool vision, and I think one day it will play out that way. I think it really will. I think one day you will see controller clips that do fit the Galaxy Fold. I think one day you will see more games that support touch controls, because right now there ain't that fucking many of them. One day we are supposed to get buy your own games on xCloud.
It's supposed to be this month,
Hopefully
isn't it?
this month. Yeah, that's the idea. We will get there. One day there will be a good UI for the Asus ROG Ally. One day there will be more games with Xbox Play Anywhere on the Asus ROG Ally and Lenovo Legion Go. All this stuff is like one day. It's future. It's imaginary. What you're doing is marketing imagination. And that's kind of what they sold us with the Xbox One vision. It reminded me of that, where they were like, okay, this is the way it's gonna work. This is the way we hope it's gonna work. And this is the way we want you to trust us that it will work. Right? Because they're asking people to, take a lot on faith here. Now, I strongly appreciate the fact that a normie or someone who's coming in for the first time, or they have literally no intention of ever buying a console. Maybe they're totally happy with that experience. Maybe they don't care enough to bother playing more than Vampire Survivors on their phone. Vampire Survivors on cloud on the Galaxy Fold, it's great. Touch controls work. Your bit rate's higher for some reason on Vampire Survivors, so the gameplay looks better. Like all that stuff, like it's great. But Vampire Survivors is one single game, you know. I just kind of feel like they should have waited a year or two to get more ducks in a row before they pulled the trigger on introducing this to the masses. Because you only get one chance to make a first impression. And the first impression with that shit right now is not best. Is my argument, right? That's my argument. And maybe Microsoft's like, and I fully concede that I'm willing to eat crow on this. I ain't a high paid marketing exec genius or whatever. I'm just someone who is in the ecosystem today and explains to people why they should be in the ecosystem for a living, right? You know, I'm the family tech support guy, but also I write Xbox guides for a living. I have to try and explain some of this stuff to real life consumers and not just focus groups and shit like that. And for my money, the ecosystem that's right there today, and like as a reviewer, someone who reviews products for a living, it's not something I would readily recommend beyond saying like, look, it's cool what they're building. It's really cool what they're building, but it ain't there today. It ain't there today, you know. If you're willing to accept that it's an early adopter experience, by all means, go for it. You know, the Lenovo Legion Go is great if you're willing to jump through the hoops it takes to set it up. Xbox Play Anywhere is great if you're willing to accept that there's only a few dozen games that support it. You know, and you know, all this stuff is great if you're willing to accept that you've got to also subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate. Um, you know, maybe you've got to buy an extra attachment for your phone or a controller, or you know, upgrade your internet, or you know, figure out how to dive through your router and turn on 5 GHz if you default to 2.4, like a lot of people do. You know, there's a lot of like there's a lot of caveats with this marketing campaign. But like Parry says in the chat, don't think they could wait any longer, Jez, as they start putting more games onto the platforms. I agree in essence, and I do think that they probably did plan to have more of those ducks lined up before pulling the trigger on this. They wanted to have the mobile store done and out there in public by last summer. It didn't happen. They wanted to have, I heard they wanted to have bring your own cloud games by last summer as well. And they could have had the 6 months out here to polish whatever that experience looks like, or maybe add more games to it. But for whatever reason, it's all coming in hot. And I think like when you are working with a major ad agency and you've got timelines and contracts in place, and you've got to buy ad space and billboards, and it's like, okay, well, here are your slots. You better be ready with the product, you know. But the problem is software is difficult, and getting all that stuff lined up is hard to execute. So I don't think it's a big deal at the end of the day. Like either way, I don't think it's gonna hurt Xbox. I just think it comes across as strange and almost anachronistic when you've got console hardware that presumably you do want to sell this Christmas, and then you're muddying the waters in a way by going well off script with what people expect an Xbox to be. Like in America, Rand, the go-to word for a search engine is Google, right?
Mm-hmm.
People always say like, oh, Google it. You know, I'm going to Google it. Even if they're not using Google, they always say I'm going to Google it, which means I'm going to search for things on the internet, right? I find that in America, especially on TV shows and shit like that, when people talk about consoles, they often say I'm going to play Xbox, or oh, you're just playing on your Xbox. You're playing on your Xbox. They often don't say PlayStation. And I'm talking about like the sort of vernacular, common sense, what a console is and represents with people in their minds. Like, like your grandparents would say something like, oh, you're playing on your Nintendo, are you? Even though like you're playing on your Xbox or something like that, right? And like if they're coming here saying like, I suppose it does spark, there is a curiosity gap, you say, like where it sparks like people's interest in it. And it's like, oh, well, my phone's an Xbox? Okay, well, how is it an Xbox, right? So it sparks a curiosity gap that might make people research more into that platform and stuff. Which should be a good thing. It's something like I should be excited about as someone who covers that ecosystem, that it could potentially bring more people into it. But I also think like I just don't think it's ready. Maybe it's just my generalized pessimism here. But I just would have waited a year to pull the trigger on this. I would have had a polished experience with some of this stuff. I would have had more content ready. I would have had more Xbox Play Anywhere games ready. I would have had a better UI for Lenovo Legion Go and Ace ROG Ally. I would have waited for the Z2 Extreme, and which gives you more battery life. Presumably, is what they're going for, is battery life with the next processor. But I also agree with what Paris said. Like, you have to pull the trigger at some point. Maybe it was just a case of like, we can't wait any longer on this now. So I don't think it's a big deal either way. I just kind of think it's a shame that the platform and ecosystem they're advertising isn't as well cooked as I would have liked it to be if it was me making the decisions. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in that aspect of it, but I also sort of feel like that's not like there's there are people that are really down on this ad because they feel like this is like the official Xbox is turning their back on the console users, right? Where Xbox is now being like, sure, there's this box, but then there's all these other things. And we don't need the console users anymore. This is what we're going for. And there are people that are very much like hate the ad because it's saying the quiet part out loud, finally, right? I mean, how many years now have we've said like Xbox is more than just a console. And how many times has Phil or anybody at Xbox said those exact words, where a console is part of this, but there's more to it than that, right? It's the whole ecosystem. And now that they're finally advertising it as such, of being like, hey, this is all an Xbox, some people can't take that, don't want to like hear that. Like it was okay when it was just discussed on podcasts and discussed on forums, but then it's another thing when you're shouting it from the rooftops and saying it to the entire world in advertisements on Twitter and YouTube and all these other places that was like, this is this, right? So I think some people kind of find that depressing in a way. And as someone who only plays on the console because that's all I really need, I think the ad is finally, like, it's really been a long time that Microsoft has really built up this ecosystem to the point where they do have games on the phone and you can play them on PC and you can play them on your TV. And it's like, I think they've wanted to get to that point now where they could shout it from the rooftops to be like, this is our vision for the future. Because that's exactly, I think, what that ad is. That is Microsoft's vision for the future. And sometimes, as we've said before, Microsoft can see the future earlier than others, but they're not sometimes the best at implementing said things, right? Where it's like, yeah, the idea of I'm going to play my game here on my console, and then I'm going to go play it on my PC, or I'm going to go play it on my phone, and the save comes with me, right? I just saw some guy who set up a PS5 Pro who wanted to transfer his saves from the PS5, but couldn't because he needed to subscribe to PlayStation Plus, because that's where, those save files that are, that's the only way they let you. They wouldn't even let you like plug in a USB on PS5 to then put them into the PS5 Pro.
That's shocking,
right?
Actually,
like you had to subscribe. It was only from PS4 to PS5 they would let you to do, right? So it was like, all right.
Holy shit!
What?
You just got a big gift.
Oh man, Scarecrow scarcely relevant with 50 memberships. Damn.
Oh my god.
He did say if I've ever fixed the gifting memberships, he would go crazy with it. So.
Oh my god, that's awesome! Thank you so much, Scarcely Relevant.
So you have that where Microsoft is like, hey, you can play these games, it's super interchangeable, play it on here, and everything just works, right? And it really does feel like, oh man, this could be the future where any screen that you play on is an Xbox. And it clearly was something that Microsoft was focused on, which makes a lot of sense considering the company that they are, the Satya runs, right? Where it's like, we're going to go where the consumers are, subscription based, all that sort of stuff that Microsoft as an overall company does, right? Xbox is now laying into, right? I agree with you that I do think it's a little bit early, and I had my different reasons for that, because I sort of feel like saying that PC is an Xbox, while true, but it sort of feels like that's not. It really isn't.
I can't
though.
play my Xbox games on it. I can't play my Xbox games on it.
I like, for instance,
So
like
it's not an
we
Xbox.
talked about Dragon Age, right? Dragon Age Veilguard. But I can't play Dragon Age Veilguard on my PC or on my mobile phone or on like, there's games that exist, and it's the vast majority of them that you can only play there, that you can't play anywhere else. But then I guess there's also like, well, there's mobile games that you can play on mobile that are like Xbox, like Candy Crush, which is an Xbox game now that you can't play on console or on PC, or all the vice versa stuff, right?
But again, these are like, is Candy Crush an Xbox game? You know, just because they publish it now?
They bought it, so it is. Yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't have Xbox Live achievements. It doesn't have Xbox Live social graph. It doesn't have any Xbox integration whatsoever. You know, beyond, I think, some kind of Game Pass stuff, which I might even be misremembering. But this is my thing, right? What is an Xbox? I don't think Microsoft themselves know what is an Xbox. And if it's as loose as they published it, therefore it is, then okay. Well, in that case, EA is now a console manufacturer. If that's how loose we're being with it, the fact that EA puts games on a console, that means my Xbox is an EA Play device now. Or I don't know, I can play an EA game on my phone, so that's an EA console. Boom. There you go. Boom. It's just that sort of you can't just say words mean things and then have them mean things. They have to actually mean things. That's how language works. And I don't think a lot of the stuff that Microsoft says is an Xbox in the definition that I imagine it to be, you know? Maybe I'm crazy, dude.
Well, you know what?
Am I crazy?
You know what? The funny thing is, you know what wasn't in that ad that should be in the ad?
What?
A Switch
Pokemon?
and a PlayStation 5.
Ooh.
Because if we're just talking about the idea of, right, because if you say the mobile phone's an Xbox because it plays some Xbox games, and the PC's an Xbox because it plays some Xbox games, well then PS5's got to be an Xbox, right? Because it does play some Xbox games, and judging from Phil's comments, it's going to be playing more Xbox games. Yes? So
yeah,
logic dictates. And I understand, like, using your competitors' products and your ads will probably have to be approved by them, and you're not going to really do that. But at the end of the day, if you're going off and saying all those things are an Xbox, then you're also, aren't you saying PlayStation and Switch is an Xbox as well? Because and like you mentioned, mobile, they don't have Xbox achievements, the Xbox hooks, as you mentioned, and those things don't either, right? If you were to play Hi-Fi, I don't know, some of them do, some of them don't, I think. So, yeah, it's just, for some people, I think it'll be tough to finally see this ad where it talks about Xbox is just more than the console, more than just the games. It's this whole platform that is everywhere.
I think what ultimately annoys me about it, right? And it's not the fact that they're doing it. Like, I'm completely on board with that. Put Halo on PlayStation. I literally don't care, right? I don't necessarily think it's going to be great for the brand, but I personally don't care, right? But what irks me, right, and why I push back on it is because I want it to be better. I want Candy Crush to have an Xbox login, and I want them to get more Play Anywhere games. And if we just let them define this as the sort of the system, this is it. This is what you can expect from it. I'm not willing to give them that benefit of the doubt. I'm not willing to let them call a Pixel phone an Xbox when they've barely done anything to earn the title of making that phone an Xbox. They've done the absolute bare fucking minimum with their mobile games. They've done the bare minimum. and I don't want people to just accept that. I don't want people to just be like, oh yeah, that's my phone's an Xbox because it's got a game that Microsoft published on it. I think if we're gonna allow them to make these claims, they have to be better. So that's why I push back on it, because I don't think they've done a lot of hard work, and I appreciate what they have done, but there's so much more work to do. There needs to be, like, in a perfect world, they'd have a roadmap of this shit and be like, yeah, this is our roadmap, and this is what we're gonna do to make these devices more Xbox-like. They've done fuck all, mate. They barely ever update their Android apps, dude. I don't think my I don't think my Microsoft launcher on my Android phone has had an update in a whole fucking year.
Mm.
I don't think they deserve to have that benefit of the doubt when their efforts on mobile are so piss poor. So, and the mobile game store is never coming out. I'm sorry, it's never ever coming out, because the regulatory environment being what it is, Apple's never gonna open their shit. Neither's Google. I just I want it to be better, man. And Scarcely Relevant's a madman, dude.
Yeah, it sure is. Dropped in another 30. I guess I have another 5 I could give too. So
that is crazy, dude. That's crazy.
No, I mean, you make some good points, for sure. Because I do feel the same way as you about, like, the ecosystem isn't there yet, but I think it could be there, and I think it could be there in the short term too, right? Because they're about to unlock, play your own games on cloud, which would then really kind of make mobile like, well, that is an Xbox, because there's a ton of games that you can play in the cloud and then via, on your smart TV and the cloud, like.
I love the vision. I love that idea.
Yeah, like,
I love it.
The vision's there, and even the future. Like, Phil mentioned this in one of the interviews about, like, how we want you to buy. We're gonna unlock the thing with the cloud purchases, and then you'll be able to get the PC stuff and then, like, the Xbox stuff. So, like, if the vision for the future is I buy a game and that one purchase gets me an entitlement for the console, an entitlement for the cloud version, so I could play it on all these different cloud platforms, and an entitlement on PC, I think that would be that's like literally the dream, where it's like one purchase gets you all this. But like you mentioned, they're not there yet. And in some of the cases, the experience is lacking. I did see Greg Miller post this out.
Greg
Miller, my bad. Greg Miller. He tweeted out, "Cousin hit me up asking about getting an Xbox or a PS5 for Christmas. I explained that she could try Xbox right now via the cloud and the Xbox Game Pass library. Pretty compelling case, Xbox." And then he posted some of the screenshots of the text where the person said, "So I can play Xbox games on my phone?" ? And then the next one was like, "That's crazy." Right? And that's who the ad.
You can't.
Well, you can. You can play. I mean,
you can play like 3 games.
Bro, no, you can play any of the games that are in Game Pass. You can play on on your mobile phone. Like, you can play.
That ain't a huge amount of games.
There's like 300 plus games on Game Pass. What do you mean?
With touch?
Well, no, maybe not necessarily touch, but
well, there you go. Okay. Caveats, bro.
Sure. Okay.
Did Greg Miller tell her that to get access to all of the games, she'd need to buy an extra controller?
No,
because there's only about 20 games with touch controls.
I will say, I
do
think this is a better slogan than "no console required," though.
Oh well, was that ever actually a slogan?
Yeah, it was. It was in part of the ad, like "no Xbox required" or whatever.
It's definitely
no
better
console
than that,
required, because some people will be like, "What's even a console?" Negative. This is like, okay, this is next. Like, you get it. Like, I think the ad. I don't know, maybe I would use different music or whatever, but like as a 30-second ad, as an overview of what the ecosystem does offer, I think it pretty much nails it, right?
Yeah,
and I don't understand.
It's not the campaign; it's just the timing for me.
Yeah,
and maybe the timing isn't as much of a big deal as I made it out to be. I just want more from the ecosystem, and I don't want to give them. I don't want to be like, yeah, this is great, it's ready. I want more from it before I'm willing to tout it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we have our buddy here, Everborn Saga with the 9.99. He says this is great in a vacuum, but on the ground, the entitlement issue and UI inconsistencies across their different endpoints undermined it. Valve could run the ad today and it would make perfect sense.
Exactly. Exactamundo, Lee.
Yeah, but I mean, what would the ad be? It would be this is a Steam, and it would show a picture of a PC and then show a picture of a handheld.
No. What it'd be, right?
And
It'd
then,
be a PC, right? And then the PC turns into a puff of steam, right? Stay with me, Rand. And then the steam coalesces, it condenses into a Steam Deck, bro. And then up on the screen, Half-Life 3 exclusive. Boom! Gabe wins.
And shout out to Tim Perry21 for gifting 5 memberships. Appreciate that. Hopefully everybody
a million members now.
Yeah, there's like 80 plus 90. There's like 95 memberships. That's pretty crazy.
Kind of creates a little bit of a, I don't know, an incentive to actually make some videos, doesn't it? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's the plan for 2025. That's the goal. I don't know. I sort of didn't understand why. So like there was a lot of people that like freaked out over this ad, and I was just like, yeah, but they've been day one on PC since 2016, and they've been on mobile and all these places since 2019. Like this is what Xbox is. I think realistically it is just being like it's more than just a console, and some people only want it to be the console. But then you get into what Phil Spencer said, where he went on these talking to Rolling Stone and Stephen Totillo, where he said we're making new consoles. There's going to be a new console. There's going to be other devices. He talked about the handheld, and he did say they're pretty much making a handheld. It's just that it's a few years away. Now, I want to ask you that. A few years away. How do you feel about it maybe being quote-unquote a few years away? And if you take his wording of a few, meaning 4, let's just assume he means 4 years away. It's 2028. Is that too late to, like, is there a right time? Is right now the right time? I feel like you need to get out there before PlayStation gets theirs out there. Maybe you need to get out there before Steam Deck 2 comes out or whatever. I mean, he said few. Is he being misleading? Maybe. I mean, it could easily just be 2, so it could be 2026 or whatever, right? But I'm just going to say it would take like 4 years, right? So 2028. Alvin says a few is not 4. It kind of is, because a couple's 2, a few is like 4.
Isn't a few officially 3?
Well, either way, I don't know. Like I always say, a couple's 2, a few's 4.
You're the reader.
And even if it's 3, that's still 2027. I'm talking about the right time in the market and opening, right? Like Switch 2's coming out next year, and maybe it's not the best to release it during that time frame. I don't know, but I would want mine out as soon as possible. But they said they're looking at the other products and seeing what the other products do good, what they do well, what they do bad, what can be improved, and all that stuff. But then they also, I think they still need to work on the user interface. And there's like Project Rainway, which is the user interface stuff that they're working on or whatever, that I've heard about. So I don't know. How do you? I mean, because you had said on the podcast that you heard that maybe it was next year, or maybe it was going to be revealed next year. Yeah.
And I did hear some weird stuff along those lines, but clearly that wasn't accurate, right? Which is why I didn't put in a report, thank God. But I sort of like, my headcanon is, Rand, that the reason they're waiting a bit is because they want to make it so they can line it up natively with one of the existing Xbox SKUs.
Okay.
My headcanon is that developers won't have to do anything to port their games to it, save for maybe UI scaling, which most games already have. And that they'll just be like, on your Xbox Series S games, or maybe even your Xbox One X games or whatever, they'll just work. And they'll just be able to tell developers, look, we've made this system and you don't have to do any work. Or your game's already there, you know? Like make it a true Xbox and not just like something that developers have to port to and target. And the reason it's taken a while is because for those kind of chips to manifest, because I know everyone clowns on the Series S, but it's a powerful little system, and it's not really something that would necessarily lend itself well to a handheld device right now. But maybe like with a little bit of extra power and efficiency over the next maybe 2 generations of chips that AMD are going to make, maybe they're projecting that okay, by this year, the chips that will deliver this experience without compromising battery life in a huge and meaningful way, it'll be ready. That's my head canon. But the truth is I have no idea. I need to ask around and see like what the timelines look like on that stuff. But like you, I hope it isn't too late by then. I think like if they were to do it next year or today even, it probably would be just another Asus ROG Ally. It would be a Windows device without the Asus Armory crate and all the bullshit that Lenovo and Asus have to install on top of it. But that's not a great console experience. Like again, it comes back to, is this an Xbox? Is it really? Do I have to adjust the TDP on an Xbox for certain games? Not really. I think like for it to be a true Xbox, it needs to feel like easy and simple to use. Like when you open the overlay on the Acer ROG Ally and the Nova Legion Go, there's all these extra settings that you can tweak. It's a PC. It's a fucking PC. It's a full bore PC with all the controls and all the benefits and negatives that come with that. It's not an Xbox in essence. It runs a few Xbox games, but it comes back to that debate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to make an Xbox handheld a true Xbox, it needs to do a variety of things that I don't think Xbox has the infrastructure in place to deliver right now. It needs a custom operating system. It needs a chip that won't compromise power or battery life. It needs like a bunch of those things, and then you have to start getting into questions like, will it run Steam? Will we be able to sideload shit on it and stuff like that? You know, so yeah, I'll ask around and see if I can dig something up about why those timelines have been described the way they have been. But remains to be seen, I guess.
Be Nice says, don't get all this doom and gloom. Xbox is putting out games, has new hardware in the works. Xbox has exclusives. They have so many games coming out. Release windows are neighboring each other.
No, there's seriously no doom and gloom, right? I literally wrote an article last week about how Xbox's momentum is crazy right now. Like they're putting out some great games. They got Genshin. They got Death Stranding. There's rumors that Zenless Zone Zero is coming in December as well. They're finishing they are finishing the year on a strong note. I just lament the fact that I am the user of the ecosystem they're describing, and I wish it was better. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger on that marketing campaign at that point. There's no doom and gloom at a broad level, though. I don't think. I actually think things are better than they have ever been for Xbox. Frankly,
I mean, a lot of the doom and gloom was based around for some people was based around exclusives going away, right? Because then they sort of feel like, well, what's my Xbox for if I don't have that? But you are right. Like he said specifically, there's more hardware coming, another console, which a lot of people thought that they weren't going to do because the Series X didn't do the numbers it was supposed to, or it should have done better. But it's like, no, they're doing another console. They're doing other devices like the handheld, so you're actually going to get more hardware maybe. And then you're right, like all these studios that they bought, all the publishers that they own, all the game, I think the games are taking a lot like these games that are coming out, I think have taken longer to come out than I originally had projected back in like 2018. Because I think even then I was like, well, maybe we'll start seeing something in 2022 or 2023, and it's kind of 2024 seems to be the year. So some people, they don't want to. It's taken longer than they anticipated, for sure. Like
there's always a console war kind of slant on some of these discussion.
Of course. Like I'm super excited for next year's lineup. I think everything, always like is appeals to you, right? Like some games aren't going to appeal to me. So when people talk about like my Xbox's lineup this year, 3 of the games Xbox put out this year don't appeal to me, and maybe that's wrong of me to discount them, and I'm not really discounting them in the grand scheme of what Xbox puts out. But when I think
for you personally,
when I think of like me personally and the games that I enjoy, Flight Sim and Age of Mythology and Our History Untold don't land anywhere in my radar.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, Xbox is like pumping some serious variety out, and they've had some huge wins. Like Age of Empires is absolutely dominating right now. Like they have like revived a genre, and there's not many there's not many companies that can claim that. To have brought back a classic IP in such a powerful and confident way as Microsoft has with Age of Empires. The problem is, a lot of the people here, and myself included, they ain't into Age of Empires. I ain't into Age of Empires. I enjoy the nostalgia and stuff like that, but I'm just too dumb. I'm too dumb to play RTS. You have to be some kind of genius to play those games. I kind of feel like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to like mass market appeal core games, I think Xbox is about to hit stride in a big way. Like we're going to see Fable, talked about earlier. We're going to see Avowed. We're going to see South of Midnight, which looks like it's going to be pretty good as well. And then like out beyond that, we got Contraband, we got State of Decay 3, we've got Clockwork Revolution, which already looks pretty good. We've got Outer Worlds 2, and in the near term, we've got Indiana Jones, we've got Stalker 2, and yeah, a lot of these are probably going to end up being timed exclusives, but
Well, yeah.
who cares?
So you move on to the next part
I don't care.
of Phil's interview, right? He said that they're still looking at acquisitions that add geographic diversity, including in Asia. So,
China specifically, right?
yeah. So, will that happen? I mean, they're not out of the acquisition game, which I guess it all depends on what becomes available and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, maybe it's easier now to add something acquisition wise when your plan is going to be mostly multi-platform moving forward in a way, at least right. So it's like, hey, we get this, we'll just put it everywhere. They're looking for opportunities to partner with creative teams in China, which I think makes sense considering how well a game like Black Myth Wukong blew up in China. So there is a market there to definitely tap into. As we talked about, the Xbox handheld is the expectation that we would do something. The device is a few years out. A few could be two. I mean, chat's been lecturing me on what few means. I thought it means 4, but apparently people say it means 2 to 3. So maybe
got a few. You got a few memberships.
Yeah. So okay, 2-3 years. Maybe the handheld comes out in 2026. Maybe it's 2027. You just got to worry about the other type of handhelds in the market. And I sort of feel like in that case, you want to get yours out before PlayStation's, because I really do feel like PlayStation's going to have one. But then they may be waiting a little bit longer. Or maybe they're not even worried at that point. Like, we browbeat Xbox down. We have all their games. Like it doesn't matter. So maybe that doesn't matter. Phil says he loves building devices, which, new console and everything. The Xbox business has never been more healthy, which means a more healthy future for hardware and the games we build, which is something they've talked about recently. And a lot of people don't even really understand, at least when you say it, like, oh, more people are playing on Xbox consoles than ever before. And they're like, is that really possible? Are they including numbers from PC or numbers from the cloud? And they're like, no, they're specifically talking about the console or whatever.
One X, One S. Oh, speaking of One X, just a slight aside. Did you see that No Man's Sky got updated for the One X recently?
Did it? It's crazy.
Yeah, they added they added ray tracing or something to the One X. It's crazy, but or something like that.
And then Phil kind of threw I wouldn't say necessarily threw PS5 Pro under the rug, but he definitely threw the idea of mid-gen consoles under the rug a little bit, saying that they're hard to show the differences in anymore, and that we're not going to grow the market with $1,000 consoles, right? Because there's a talk about, okay, which I agree with. Like, you put out a console that's $1,000, you're not going to grow the market. That's too expensive, and the market's remained static for a while. Like, there's the same number of people doing it. You're not really growing the video game industry. It used to be like people age out and then the new young kids age in. But it seems like as people, but yeah, the young kids aren't. Yeah, but the young kids aren't aging in anymore. And like the old people age out, but the new young kids aren't really joining. And I agree with Phil in that sense about those consoles. You're not going to grow it there. Not saying I wouldn't want a Xbox Series X Pro or whatever, because I would. But then here's the thing that kind of linchpinned everything, which was the talking points around that when he was asked about bringing more games to Nintendo and PlayStation, which you knew somebody was going to ask him, because it's like, yeah, man, we haven't seen this before, right? A platform holder that is releasing games on other platforms, like that's, Sega had to go under before they started doing that, right? They had to get rid of their hardware and become just a software platform, software developer. And Phil says, I don't sort of see any red lines in our portfolio. Even Steven,
what I said before, right?
You did mention that in your article when you talked about Project Latitude, that Microsoft was pushing for no red lines for any of their franchises.
Yeah. I literally use the word red lines because there's always these Xbox accounts who they say things like, "Oh, Xbox is stopping doing Project Latitude and they're slowing down and stuff like that." I always see those kind of claims. It's like, no, they're not.
Yeah, and I guess this leads to the whole conversation of like, what does that mean? What is this idea of no red lines in a portfolio mean? Does that mean...
It means Halo. That's what it means.
Well, no, does that mean that every single game that they make is earmarked for PlayStation and Switch too, no matter what? Like, is the decision already made in the same way when EA makes a game or Take-Two makes a game or any of these publishers make a game where they're making something and it's just like, yeah, it's going to release on whatever platform is out. Like, like EA's making a game, they're making it for Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 and maybe even last gen, right? It's not even a question of what platforms they're making it for. It's just like, that's baked in. Is that what this means? Where it's like, yeah, any game that we're making from any of our publishers, whether it's Xbox or Bethesda or Activision, it's just coming to those platforms. So like 100% of the games we make are going to go to their platforms. Is that what that means? Or does it mean...
Sorry, go on.
Or does it mean something along the lines of like, when we're deciding which games we might want to bring to other platforms, that there's no immediate, no, this can't happen, right? Like Halo is off limits and Forza's off limits and this is off limits. So when you're deciding what games you do want to bring to other platforms, there's no games that are technically off limits, right? And I will say, like, this is kind of different. Kind of like when in the business update, remember Phil said, "Hey, it's just these 4 games. I don't want to tell anybody, any of the users of the platforms that this means all the games and all that sort of stuff." And then the showcase, he was like, "Yeah, we're bringing more games to PlayStation." So I don't really think what he's saying here is a surprise in any way, even though he's sort of shifted gears a little bit from the February show. He definitely shifted gears. But like in the showcase, he was like, "No, we're bringing more games elsewhere." And now he's like, "Yeah, there's no red lines." But I want you to know, what does this actually mean, Jez? Like, is it just when we're thinking about stuff, there's no game that's off limit, or every game we're making is now just slated for all the other platforms no matter what? Like, we're just doing that. We're just like any other third-party publisher. You know what I mean?
What I've been told is that what they said before is still true, that it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
So there'll be some developers who are just like, we want to make the best game we can possibly make. We want to use the whole budget for the first wave on Xbox, polishing Xbox, not doing simultaneous development. There are a lot of developers out there who are not built for simultaneous development. Square Enix famously being one of them. But there's also a lot of Microsoft studios internally that are not built for that today. So at least for the time being, it's still going to be a case-by-case basis, especially when it comes to launch. And then maybe it's like, we'll port it after the fact. No red lines means like they're not holding back. They're not arbitrarily holding back Halo. They're not arbitrarily holding back Forza. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time and whether they've got the resources to do it at any given moment. So, taking Forza Horizon as an example, like maybe the team that could port Forza Horizon to PlayStation right now, they're busy working on the next game, so they don't have time. So then it's like, well, do you want to use budget to get a port studio involved? Like, I don't know, Double 11 or something? And it's like, well, no, we'd rather hire some more people, kind of thing. I think Microsoft's letting developers just choose for themselves to some degree about where they're going to do some of this stuff. Because they'll have targets as well. And their teams will look at, like, how much money can we spend to do this port? Is it worth doing it now? And stuff like that. And they'll decide for themselves, like, we could hit our targets really hard if we could port this to PlayStation at this point. So I think developers are choosing for themselves on some degrees, but I do think Microsoft will also step in sometimes and just be like, look, we've got an opportunity here with this game in this timeline, in this cycle. If this was exclusive, this might have a disproportionate impact on Xbox in a positive way. So we'll keep it off PlayStation for now. I think that is also something they're also considering. When it comes to no red lines, it also means in the other direction. It means like there's no red lines on games that we will hold off from PlayStation because it might have a positive impact on the ecosystem or an outsizedly negative impact, right? So it is just going to generally be a case-by-case basis, whereas like a publisher, it would never be a case-by-case basis, especially like someone like EA, who've long been established as someone who develops games for multiple platforms simultaneously. For them, it's never a case-by-case basis. But for Xbox, it is going to be a case-by-case basis, and at least for the foreseeable. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Like
Right.
D-Batch is in chat saying, it does not mean that, Jez. Oh my gosh, come on. I mean, dude, I've literally spoken to people in LA describing that exact scenario to me. So, I mean, share your sources, bro. Or it's just, FUD, which I know you're into at the moment.
Dude, don't be talking to D-Batch like that.
It's true, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just, we all knew it was more than 4 games. I think we even said it when it was happening. It was like, D-Batch says, you believe anything they say now. Come on, they lie.
You disbelieve anything they say now, so I guess we're even.
Interesting. D, I believed you about the PS5 Pro, and that didn't turn out the way that you said it was going to turn out. So I guess everybody can be wrong at any point in time, right? I think I've always said what Xbox is going to do is that Activision games are going to be day one everywhere, but Bethesda games are going to be day one everywhere, and Xbox Game Studio games, I think, will be timed exclusive.
That's probably how it's going to go, yeah.
Where it's like Hellblade 2 came out earlier this year. I could easily see Hellblade 2 coming to PlayStation next year. Fable, I think, is gonna release whether it's next year or 2026. Then, whether it's 6 months or a year later, then it's gonna happen, right? I think it's the vast majority, if not all of their games are gonna be everywhere. And the only way I think they do slow down on it is if it really does affect the console user base to the point where it's like really trending down, then they might pull back on certain stuff.
That's why I say case by case.
But yeah, I think it's, at least I'm gonna assume it's most things, right?
It's probably gonna be most things, yeah.
So I don't know. There's also the thing of like people saying like, oh well, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming. I'm sure you've seen people being like, this, that, and the third are all gonna make over. It's kind of reminds me of people. It'd be like the same thing if I said to everybody here and to Jez, I was like, guess what? You know what's gonna happen in 2025? It's gonna rain. It's gonna snow. It's gonna be cloudy. And you know what? The thing is, I'll be right. Right? Of course it is. But what I'm saying there, it doesn't really even matter because that's just how it's going to happen. Like, me predicting the weather a year in advance is nothing because all those things will happen. So anybody predicting like these Xbox games will go to PlayStation, it's like they literally told you that last year or this year. So saying it's going to happen and that, you know, you've been told this or, you know, your sources or whatever, it's like me predicting the weather next year, a year from now. Of course it's going to happen, you know? I don't know. I usually only pay attention to people that like have timelines, timetables. When it's like, oh, like, you know, this is happening soon, within like a month or two, not like a nebulous, like, oh my God, like all this is happening. Like, is it? Yeah, probably. Does, you know, anybody can say that at this point in time. And I think I've mentioned that before. Like when we were even back then, I was like, anybody that's coming out and saying like all this is coming, it's like, yeah, no shit. Like it's not really like a prediction or whatever. So, you know, there is, I think also with Phil coming out and saying this stuff now, I also sort of feel like it's a prelude to them actually announcing more games coming to the other platforms. Where it's like getting
Game Awards.
Well, not necessarily the game. I mean, it could be. I do feel Xbox is gonna be like big at the launch of Switch 2 with stuff.
Oh yeah, they're gonna go hard.
So like when Switch 2, whenever they have that reveal, I can imagine there being like a lot of Xbox games that get announced for the Switch 2 to take advantage of the launch window. So when Phil comes out there, I sort of feel like what he's saying is also a way to prep people, to prepare them for.
Would it be only Switch 2?
No, I don't think so. I think it'll just be everything, you know? I was surprised Xbox didn't put anything else on PlayStation this holiday. Like, I was kind of expecting Forza Horizon 5 to hit. But maybe they more or less, maybe they decided it would be better served to, like, with the Switch 2 launch, and we can launch it there. But it seems like, you know, early next year is going to be the year anniversary of all that stuff, so there's probably going to be more announcements that they are going to drop games from their back catalog, like maybe a State of Decay 2, maybe a Hellblade 2 and stuff like that haven't hit yet, that, like, you know, feels like saying, like, yeah, nothing's off limits, you know? But even in that article, they said that, hey, it hasn't even been decided for the next Halo yet what they're going to do with it. Which should tell you that, like, those decisions are still, like Jez said, case by case. Because if Halo was earmarked to already go, like, you wouldn't even have to ask that question. You don't have to ask EA or Take-Two what platforms you're putting it on. And the fact that you're already sitting there being like, well, what are we doing with Halo, means that there's room for things to be, like,
fluid.
Yeah, like a fluid situation. Like, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe it'll be day one, or maybe we'll hold it off. Like, what's best for the game? Because we've had that discussion before about what's best for the platform and what's best for the game. And honestly, like, what's best for Halo, especially the multiplayer portion, is, like, literally to be everywhere. So it's probably best for that to be on Switch and to be on PlayStation and to be on Xbox and PC and all that stuff. But then you got to think, like, well, what's best for the ecosystem? We still want to sell more Game Pass subs. We still want to sell all these other different things, and you need a user base for that. So it's like, maybe they lean heavily into FOMO, Jez? This is another thing I was kind of thinking of, is that gamers really, really struggle with FOMO about a really great game that's out now. It's like, oh my God, I need to play this. And if you were to hold things, at least in a time-exclusive manner, where they had to wait a year.
FOMO,
well, yeah, because you're just, you know, you're you. But I'm saying a lot of people do. So if they were to, you know, have it where, let's say, for example, Fable's everything you said it was, but it wasn't coming to PlayStation until a year later, or they didn't even mention when it would come, if it would ever come, so you're wondering in the back of your mind if it ever will. Maybe you're just like, screw it, I'll play it on Xbox or play it on my PC or whatever. I think they'll probably like really lean into that aspect. Or maybe they won't.
Or my Samsung smart fridge. I'm going to play it there.
Or maybe they won't. I don't know. Death Metal God says, waiting a year kills sales potential. It can. Yeah. It absolutely can.
Yeah, we saw that with Final Fantasy 16
on PC,
week,
yeah.
Where they were talking about how it sold a whopping 300,000 copies, I think.
Like 280,000 copies, yeah.
Yeah, it's not what you want. It's not what you want. So when you're competing in an algorithmic world, you need every post you can possibly get. You need every single one, right? When you're competing in an algorithmic world. And if your game is only on one platform, only one audience can talk about it, which is gonna hurt how you rank in the algorithm. It's gonna hurt your zeitgeist potential. And Final Fantasy 16 didn't even trend because it was only on one platform. The era of one platformism is completely no, it's gone. You need to, at the very least, be on PC. At the very least, and if you can be on everything, then great, because then you'll blow the fuck up like Metaphor did. You know, so the goal is to be on everything. I think in terms of capitalizing on the hype cycle, because we increasingly live in a FOMO-driven, hype-driven world, and I think that's just the way everything will go. And I think Microsoft again is like they're right on the money. I think they've got the right strategy. Like all this stuff about the fear about it, it all revolves around execution, which we historically know Microsoft hasn't always been the best at. But I think like in 5 or 10 years to come, everyone will just look back on this situation. Maybe Phil have retired by then and flown off into the sunset, and people will look back and I think they'll say he was right. I really do.
Spam says Indiana Jones
Right.
being announced prior to release stumps that idea, to be honest. Well, I did say it was just a thought, but also I do think Bethesda and Activision stuff is handled a little bit differently than Xbox Game Studios. But then also, Indiana Jones, there is a special thing about that game considering Disney's involved. And we don't
Yeah,
know.
Disney's involvement makes that a bit of a wild card.
Yeah. Disney may have wanted the announcement. Maybe Disney was the one pushing for the game to get announced for PS5 right away. Right?
Yeah.
Don't know. But I mean, it is different in that regard, when you look at the other stuff. So,
Yeah.
Anything else that Phil? Oh, we do have a couple super chats. I'll grab these, see what they say. We have Rodrigo saying expectations on Xbox related things for TGA. I mean, we sort of mentioned this. Maybe an Avowed trailer. Maybe a South of Midnight thing if they really feel confident and they want to give like a release date for it. Even though I feel like it's going to be at the January Direct anyways. I really think that would be it. Maybe another Doom. Could we see another Doom trailer already?
I don't know, buddy.
I don't know.
I think we'll see another Fallout 76 trailer, baby.
Oh
Let's
God,
go.
save us from that.
Ghoul gameplay.
Glitch says, what was the source on the next-gen console coming in 2026 or 2025? Have you heard it directly from your sources that next-gen Xboxes are coming in 2026?
No, I never heard that. It was just sort of like it was the vaguest of vagues.
Well, I think there was like an
AMD
AMD leaker or something like that. Originally put it out
Oh
there.
yeah. So
That
maybe
was,
that's
like,
where my
2026.
info came from.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So like people were, because originally the leaks from the FTC trial had Xbox releasing their next console in 2028. Remember the timeline that we all saw?
Yeah.
And then Phil came out and said that those plans don't represent what they're actually doing now. Those plans are old. And clearly that's the case because...
Oh my God, it's 2029.
Well, no. Yeah, but I mean, we were supposed to get the controller with the haptics this year.
Yeah.
We were supposed to get those other Xboxes that have not necessarily a Pro, but had Bluetooth built in or whatever stuff which the new ones that they released don't have. So clearly there were some things changed. And I wonder if the timeline for whatever... I mean, hell, there was even talk that they were going to, use ARM instead of using x86?
They were just trying to bid up AMD.
Yeah, probably.
Bid down. Due diligence, baby.
Yeah, Scarcely Relevant, who sent so many memberships tonight, which I thank you greatly. He says, who missed out on the sub? Allow me to fix that. I dropped 80 subs on Jez. Gotta balance the numbers.
Oh my God. Dude.
He said he's a man of his
crazy.
word and let the chaos begin. Champagne Supernova says, I'm raising a class action against Microsoft. I can't play StarCraft on my Xbox while I'm on the shitter. They told me my Pixel is an Xbox.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I can't even play StarCraft on my Xbox, for God's sake.
Yeah. Riskit says, TV. You can't even play own games yet. It's true. Not yet, but sometime this month. Yeah, was there anything else here? think I got everything. So, you want to take some Patreon questions, Jez?
Yeah, let's do it, buddy. And then I'm going to bed.
Then you're going to bed because it's late. So let me get to these questions. See what we got for this. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the show. Appreciate every one of you. And
you're all amazing.
Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And if you guys want to drop a question in, make sure you get it in. And we will answer these things until the end of the show, or until the 4-hour mark comes in, because me and Jez tired and I got things to do.
And also, just so you guys know, there's a 15% discount on Patreon right now, but there's also a free tier on Patreon, which you can sign up just to get updates about the show. And, sometimes I post random articles or thoughts there, and also previews, and get early access to YouTube videos I'm working on for Windows Central and things like that. So if you've ever considered it, please take a look. 15% discount at the moment. And yeah, thank you.
So we got achievement saying we always start the show with what we've been playing, but how about what we haven't been playing? I bought Death Stranding on Xbox and haven't been playing it because I've been busy with Metaphor. We all know what Jez hasn't been playing. That's Persona 5. So Rand, what have you not been playing? It's interesting. It works for Jez, but it doesn't really work for me.
You haven't been playing Death Stranding.
Well, I already played Death Stranding in 2019 when it came out, though.
Oh.
Even though I do own it on Xbox, I did buy it. It's like, all right, I might replay it before Death Stranding 2 comes out, just to refresh my memory about what crazy stuff that went on in that game. I guess maybe Metaphor, because I do own it, and I kind of want to play it at some point. I'm just waiting to see how everything shakes out, because I don't want to start Metaphor and then being like, oh, Indiana Jones is here, and then drop it. I need like a ramp up of like Metaphor, and then that would be it. So maybe that would be the game I would say is that game, so.
Yeah, same for me, I would say. Like, it's a game I really want to play that I just haven't started yet. Part of that's because I don't want to start playing that until I finish Persona 5, because it just feels wrong. So that's going to have to wait for that one.
Silas says, greetings, chaps. As we fall into winter, are there any games that you love which you associate with the holiday season? Games that may stir memories of holidays with the family? Or receiving a game for Christmas that you were dying to play? I don't really have any game memories that are tied to seasons. There are games that in my memory that I strictly tie with, like, my brother, for example. Me and my brother used to play that Terminator game on the Sega Genesis. You know what I'm talking about? Where it was like based on the arcade shooter with the guns. When you would go into the arcades, there'd be that Aerosmith game with the gun, and then like the Terminator one. So we would play that all the time. I'm too
young for arcade machines, bro. I'm Gen Z.
Yeah, you're Gen Z. I used to always get. I associate Nintendo with Christmas because I would always get Nintendo games for Christmas from my grandparents. So in my mind, Nintendo Christmas is Nintendo, I guess, because that's when I got. I was like, now it's like Christmas doesn't really mean anything to me, and it hasn't in a long time. Even though my family like celebrates it, it's like we have a dinner or whatever, but we don't really exchange gifts like that. So Christmas really doesn't mean much to me anymore. But, it used to be my favorite holiday because I used to get video games. So, yeah, I don't know. What about you? Do you have anything that you associate with that time of year?
Well, from a gaming perspective? Are you reading them from the bottom up?
Yeah, I always read them from the bottom up.
This is weird for me, I suppose. Like, for me, and it's at the top of my mind for obvious reasons, but Silent Hill is something I associate with Christmas. I don't know why. I think it's because back then I used to get games for Christmas a lot, and Silent Hill like has the Misc going for it, and especially the original one. had the sort of snow effect, snowy looking effect, or I think is it meant to be ash? I don't know. But Silent Hill 1 and 2, I associate with Christmas, especially Silent Hill 2, because I got Silent Hill 2 for Christmas, and I got it early because I was super ill. It was like my early Christmas present that year because I was super ill. I was bedridden, and I couldn't do anything. I had some kind of glandular infection, and I think I've told the story before. But yeah, Silent Hill 2 has a special place in my mind, especially Christmas. And I realized that again recently playing the remake, which is a lot better after they patched it.
Hmm. So we got Katrox says questions for Jez. Jez, would you pay Rand to complete games for you?
There's a big community in World of Warcraft and other MMOs where you can literally pay someone to play the game for you, and it's like pay like X amount of money for a boost, or pay X amount of money for PvP. I'll do PvP for you and get you the PvP stuff. I'm just sitting there like, does that not just take the joy out of actually playing the game and getting it for yourself? I don't know, but it's a big business. A lot of people do it. But no, I would not pay Rand the complete games for me, mainly because he'd do them all on easy, and he'd hurt my kill death ratio and Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff. Maybe if Rand was more of a pro gamer like me, then maybe.
Omen says, do you think it's a little hypocritical for Phil Spencer to talk about how cross-buy and cross-save is great for the platform and then go ahead to not offer it on Call of Duty, Diablo 4, Stalker, Towerborn, Warcraft Remastered, and Avowed if you buy it on Battle.net? Overall, I'm really happy with Xbox Play Anywhere, but it seems like they're really dropping the ball with recent and even future releases. It's tough to call PCs Xboxes as they don't nicely integrate into Xbox itself.
Yeah, I mean that's the crux of my argument is that a lot of this stuff just isn't a great experience today. And the thing is, I know that they are working towards some of this stuff. Like Avowed on Battle.net, that is 100% an experiment. Like Battle.net has tens of millions of monthly active users, and yeah, seriously, tens of millions of monthly active users. They want to see if Blizzard people will actually engage with a single player game that isn't from their typical ecosystem. And if they will, like if they end up finding that Avowed sells more on that platform than it does on, I don't know, the Xbox app, for example, you have to like wonder, like, could they not migrate everyone over to Battle.net? Has Battle.net just got a more engaged, more PC-oriented user base, or are they maybe trying to double dip here a bit, where it's like, we do have the option to get the Xbox Play Anywhere, but maybe we can double dip, and PC gamers who don't want to use the Xbox app under any circumstances, maybe they'll use the Battle.net app. But I agree, there is an element of like, this ecosystem is too incoherent to call it all an Xbox, especially when you start looking at mobile and the different games and the different sets of entitlements and logins and features. Like for me, a game, if I can log in with my Microsoft account and get achievements and friends and cross save and cross buy, that's what Xbox is to me. I don't know what it means to Xbox though, and that's part of the issue. What does Microsoft mean when they say this is an Xbox? Because right now it means fuck all.
Mm.
And if it's just that they publish the game, then that's not a very compelling argument, Especially when like their name, there's no Xbox published by Xbox, so that's not written on Candy Crush Saga anywhere,
Well, hell, even when they Call of Duty, it's just Activision, right? There's no Xbox branded stuff, or even for the Bethesda stuff, it's just Bethesda. So, but I do feel like the Play Anywhere stuff needs, like those games need that access, because that is a big like issue for some people. Like, oh, I'm gonna buy Diablo 4 here. Then we've had people come to the podcast and be like, now I have to buy it again over here. There was something to do with the DLC, right?
Yeah, the DLC, like that was a huge issue, because like there were people who were like, they've got the Game Pass version of the base game, but the expansion is not on Game Pass, so you have to buy it twice if you want to enjoy. This is Xbox, as Microsoft describes it. You have to buy it twice for the privilege, and It's like this is not Xbox, and this is not good enough, and that's why I don't support the notion that that is Xbox, because Xbox needs to be better to get to. In order for me to accept that description, it needs to be better. I demand it better, bro.
Okay. They'll get right on that because Jez says it needs to be better.
Damn right.
I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if your article was making the rounds within Redmond today. Like fucking Jez Corden. What the fuck does he say here? Fucking piece of shit.
I mean, I hope it's at least fair, you know, and because it is a good campaign. I just think the time is wrong, and I want them to do better. That's all. That's all.
Lee Sanders says, "Hey
Constructive
lads,
criticism.
it was my birthday on Friday. Thanks for moving the podcast.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday or happy belated birthday. Was looking at the Black Friday sale, not really drawn to anything there. However, I am looking at 3 games to grab: Zao, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, and Balatro. Would you grab or recommend those games, or would you perhaps suggest anything else? Well, if you're just talking about those 3, I played 2 of them. I think Prince of Persia: Lost Crown is my personal game of the year. And they're both, and Zao is also a Metroidvania. I think Prince of Persia is way better than Zao. I haven't played Balatro, but a lot of people I know have played it, and they get addicted to it. So,
Jen loves that game.
Yeah, if you like a card deck rogue game,
roguelite,
roguelite, maybe that's up your alley. But out of those 3, I would recommend Prince of Persia: Lost Crown.
I haven't played any of them, so that's 100% a Rand question, I think.
Governor Grimm says, so I know you probably covered this as a top button item, but with Phil's no redline comments, it feels like the selling point for Xbox has to move to the ecosystem, but their ecosystem and how disparate it is the worst part of their platform. The console is not coherent with PC, is not coherent with mobile. They have been working on these consumer endpoints for years. Here we are with Microsoft and Phil marketing an ecosystem that doesn't really exist. Surely they know that will frustrate customers. By the way, bought Vessel Hatred on Battle.net and can't play it on Xbox. It's funny that I can see my Vessel Hatred character on Xbox, but he's grayed out character selection. Why? I mean,
yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about, and
I don't know why.
You know, yeah.
But as for
they're working on those integrations. You know, they are working through that, and the incongruence that can happen when you do have Battle.net separate from the Xbox app, and you do have Xbox separate from Battle.net, and all that kind of stuff. They're working through what that looks like. But that's just the thing. It's years away. We're years away from being able to say this is an Xbox.
So what I think is the selling point for Xbox in the future will be one, Game Pass. Right? I already sort of think like they think Game Pass is that differentiator in comparison to the other platforms. And they've said recently, even as far as the the business update, that Game Pass is only going to be on Xbox. But I sort of wonder if that's because Nintendo and PlayStation don't want it. And I have to imagine if they did want it and they were able to put it there, it would probably be there. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things where like PlayStation and Nintendo aren't going to allow us to put it there. So we're just like, it's only on Xbox. So that's one way they can differentiate themselves. The other thing is what their vision of what the future ecosystem will look like. Where if you buy one copy of something, you potentially will get this license to play it on your PC, on mobile devices, and your console. And maybe that's a good trade-off for losing physical, where, that physical disc only worked in one place. But now if I make one digital purchase, I have all these many different devices I could play it on if I want to, and I can only play it on Xbox. Where, like, sure, I could buy, let's just say, Halo 6 or the next Halo game on PlayStation, but the only place I'm going to be able to play the next Halo game is on my PlayStation. Where if I played it and bought it on Xbox or within the ecosystem, I could play it at all these different endpoints. At least that's what I sort of think what's going to do, that will be what the selling point is. I also sort of think a lot of their first party games will be on a timed exclusive basis. So like you want to play it right away, instead of waiting. Well, this is where you would do it.
I've got like
So-
another thing that's rattling around in my head.
Okay.
What if, right, they're gonna do some kind of special deal with Steam and Nintendo? Because increasingly, I think Microsoft values or thinks people is going to value is the progression. Like that's what's keeping me on my Xbox is the fact that all my content, all my save files, everything I've got is on the box, right? So like I can't roam to other systems except for those systems Microsoft deems necessary. So like increasingly I wonder like is there like some kind of potential there where they can have like an interoperable system where my cloud, because I know they've done this occasionally for games on the Switch where your Xbox save can roam all the way over there to the Switch. I think they do this with Minecraft Realms, and I think they did it for Minecraft Dungeons if I'm unless I'm going completely crazy. But like, what if it was all Xbox games? All Xbox games come to the Switch. Now, you know, there's Sony would have a vested interest in stopping something like that from happening, right? But would Xbox necessarily have a vested interest, or would Nintendo have a vested interest in stopping that from happening? Like, if I've already got a save file that I want to take with me to another device, you know, maybe Microsoft can be like, well, let people use our save system for your cloud stuff. I don't know. I think there's probably some kind of tie-in there that they could do with other platforms to improve the interoperability and also sort of, I don't know, really showcase that the Xbox ecosystem really is everywhere. But again, it's just another one of them. It's like years away, even if they did do something like that.
Let's see. We have one here from Sierra11 Kevin. Hey, Rand and Jez, as always, appreciate you both. I got a steering wheel earlier this year, and it's amazing the sense of immersion it provides for racing games. My question for you both, what game devices have made you feel the most immersed? Some other examples I can provide are Sega arcade games, in particular Afterburner and the Moving Cabinet. It felt like Maverick from Top Gun with that plus the rocking soundtrack. What games have done that for you both?
The first thing that came to my mind was, and this is a long time ago, but when I was a kid, it was oftentimes that arcade machines would actually lead the way for graphics, you know, because they'd have more RAM. You know, you could fit more of everything in an arcade machine over a home console. So I remember when I used to go to the local cinema or the movie theater, y'all, as Rand would say. I would really look forward to what arcade cabinets they had because it'd be like, oh my god, the graphics are so sick. And for me, it was House of the Dead. I think it might have even been House of the Dead 2 or something like that. But the gun, the vibrating gun, and like the bullet holes appear where you shot exactly. I thought that was just fantastic. I remember when I eventually got House of the Dead on PlayStation 1 or up 2 or some other system, or Dreamcast even, where it eventually arrived. I can't remember what console it did get ported to, but it did get ported eventually. I remember being disappointed at how poor the graphics were. I remember thinking and like how well it handled with the controller and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be House of the Dead for me. Just off the top of my head. What about you, Rand? Have you got any thoughts?
My first thought comes to similar like you. It's not really anything that I played like on. I didn't really get a lot of accessories. You know, I did have like track and field or like the Nintendo gun, so you could play Duck Hunt. And I'm not gonna say Duck Hunt or whatever, but
Duck Hunt.
I never really got in a steering wheel or any of that stuff. But I did spend a lot of time at the arcade. And there's always this one game. I struggle to remember the name of it, so maybe somebody in chat can help me out here. I want to say it was Time Shift or Time Cop or something, and it was a
Time Crisis.
Is it Time Crisis? It was a light gun game, but it also had floor paddles, where you had to step on like the floor paddle to move out of cover, to shoot the enemies and stuff. And anybody know what I'm talking about with that game?
I would imagine. I think that might have been Time Crisis.
I think
maybe.
it was Time something. I just remember like playing that game a lot. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Leo
Leo
says it's
Lynn says Time
Time
Crisis.
Crisis. So
Yeah, Time Crisis is
because like
another game that I
most because
really
I
missed
remember
in that
playing the
game.
Aerosmith game with the gun and the Terminator game with the gun. But the only game I like that actually then you like use your feet, which you normally don't do, and I'm like pressing on the thing to come out of a cover and stuff. I thought that was so cool and so immersive. You know, I'm sure other people might say like Dance Dance Revolution or those dancing games you see people play at, or like you know, the Daytona USA where you're at the arcade and you're in the seat and you're driving and stuff. But those would be that game specifically always stayed in my memory for that aspect was that game.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's cute.
I don't know why I said that like Cartman.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about what I wanted to play next because I just finished Dragon Age and I just also did Life is Strange True Colors, which was the Life is Strange from 2021, because I was just like, you know what? I did double exposure. Let me see if this other people said the other Life is Strange game is better, and I kind of thought it was in a way, but I was like, okay, what do I play next? Right? I'm not really interested in Flight Sim. Stalker 2, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really care that much about Stalker 2.
I will say you got to be in a mood for Stalker.
I did see that there's
tough,
like
man.
you know, it's like 147 gigabytes or whatever, and the first update's like 139 gigabytes or some shit.
It's huge.
So it's like, okay, it's a big boy. So I was like, okay, well the next game I'm super excited for is Indiana Jones, which is early December. So I'm like, okay, well, like, what do I, if I'm not playing Stalker 2, which I haven't decided yet, what other games could I play? And there was a part of me that was like, I love South Park: The Stick of Truth, which by the way was Obsidian. I don't know if you remember that. I completely forgot they made that game. In fact, I think it might be one of their best games. I love South Park: The Stick of Truth. And the reason I bring that up is because I didn't play the sequel, South Park: Fractured But Whole. I own it, but I never got around to playing it for whatever reason, right? So
who made that? Was that Obsidian?
That was
the
one of the Ubisoft teams that made it.
Oh.
So I was thinking what I might do is just start up South Park: Stick of Truth and beat that, and then go right into the other South Park game, Fractured But Whole. And just because I know South Park: Stick of Truth is a 360 game, but they remastered it for the Xbox One. But it's one of those games that, like, it's South Park, you know, like it's South Park has that timeless look, you know. It's not like the graphics you're playing it for. So I was thinking, whatever, it's been stuck in my head. It's like, maybe you should play South Park and just get rid of that game out of your eternal backlog that sometimes I rarely go back to. Or I was thinking like Yakuza Like a Dragon. You know, Metaphor, I'm still kind of like, I want to play that, but maybe I'll play it after Indiana Jones or whatever. So yeah, it's funny because when you did the Kenny voice, I was like, wait a minute, that's Kenny. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to play South Park.
Kenny doesn't speak. Kenny says,
I guess I meant Cartman.
Cartman. Yeah. I haven't watched South Park for ages, man.
It's been a long time.
South Park's great.
So, let's see here. We have new Patreon. N7 Justin, appreciate you, buddy. Says, hi, first time Patreon member. Have been listening for many years now and happy to give my support now that I'm at a point in my life that I'm able to do so.
Thank you so much.
The question I have is about a topic discussed a few weeks ago. Y'all talked about a Call of Duty Halo crossover such as a Call of Duty ODST. I absolutely love the idea. From my understanding, though, with it being in a Call of Duty title, Xbox would contractually be obliged to release it on PlayStation and Switch, right? As Phil Spencer just recently said, there are no red lines. Do you think this would damage the brand? Or has the multi-platform strategy already done enough damage?
I think really, like, people are sort of, they've chosen their platforms now, and people aren't going to move. People have chosen their platforms, and unless, like, they have friends who influence them to move to another platform for one game, and then they end up buying a second game and blah, 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 which is unlikely to happen, really. I think people have mostly chosen their platforms, and their kids will choose their platforms as well for them. Like my friend's son, uh, at the weekend, he's 4 years old, and he's a monster with an Xbox controller already. I'm blown away, right? He's been rescued from being an iPad kid by my friends who are Xbox players, and now he's probably going to end up being a lifelong Xbox player because now he knows how to use a controller, and he's rocking Minecraft, man, like building redstone contraptions and all that kind of shit. I was mind blown. I was like, man, this kid's a genius, um. But that doesn't happen for most kids. I think most kids go from iPad to then PC probably. At least today. Um, so I don't think if any damage to the brand at a sort of outside of the Twitter bubble and people complaining. I don't know if there's any real damage being done to the brand. Like Phil already said that they've got more users than ever. And obviously, conspiracy theorists think that they're allowed to lie about things like that, even though there's shareholder, publicly traded company, and that could constitute an SEC violation if they do lie about their performance, which is actually very against the law. So they do have more console users than ever, and and that's with all the stuff over the past year and the confusion that's created within the core community. Most the game industries, for the most part, people just play games. They're like they see a game trending on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. They see a game trending. Where can I play it? And then they'll go off and play it. More often than not, it's on mobile, PlayStation, PC, and Xbox anyway. And the games that really cut through that algorithm are the multi-platform games. So for me, if they did do a Halo ODST, Call of Duty, it would probably be everywhere, regardless of whether or not they're contractually obligated to do so by regulators. And I think multiplayer games kind of need to be everywhere these days. I often wonder, like, if Halo Infinite was everywhere, like, it'd probably do really, really well.
Well, let me ask you
Probably do a
this:
lot better than it is.
what if Concord was on Xbox? Would Xbox have saved Concord?
No, no, no. No, Rand, you just had to go and make it silly. You had to go and make it silly, didn't
Well,
you just do that. You just do. Sometimes you just do that.
N7 Justin brings up an interesting thing that we didn't mention about, like, a Call of Duty Halo crossover, and like the rumors surrounding maybe Sledgehammer's next game might be Halo related or like a Halo game. Remember, because there was this whole thing about them making an unexpected game in Unreal Engine 5, and Halo's now on Unreal Engine 5. So there was this rumor that Sledgehammer's working on Halo. But according to Microsoft or Microsoft's agreement with the CMA, any studio owned by Activision, any game that they partake in or whatever, they are legally obligated to then offer that game to like Nintendo and PlayStation, or maybe specifically just PlayStation. So
I love how dumb the regulators are there, because it's like Microsoft's being like, oh no, please don't make us release our games and make more money. Oh no, like it's like they live in a different universe the way the industry's gone. But
yeah.
anyway, continue.
No, I was just saying, like, if they were really doing that, right, like, you would have to, well, you would, I think the agreement was you would have to offer it on PlayStation's cloud, right? Because their whole agreement with the CMA was for cloud.
Ew.
And it's like, well, if you had to do that, and if you had to make a version available for PlayStation Cloud at that point, why not just make like a full game for PlayStation? Because if
exactly.
you had to offer a cloud version of their game, it's like, well, you might as well just make and give them the full version.
Because you've got to port it to PlayStation to get it on their cloud.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, but then we don't know if that's actually true. They are working on a Halo game, even though I do agree a Call of Duty ODST would probably be pretty sweet. So
it'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd play it.
As for the damage,
better than regular Halo.
I mean, we did hear I think me and you both heard the audio from one of those internal meetings where Matt Booty was asked straight up if the multi-platform stuff had damaged the brand, and he said he didn't think it damaged the brand, but he did say he thought it stressed the brand.
Yeah, the brand was under stress.
I don't know, like this was also...
That was almost a year ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, this was basically like March-ish of this year, so I haven't heard any I haven't got any info about any other meetings. I'm sure they have them all the time about how they feel about it. It's one of those things that somebody will tell you, of course it hurt. Absolutely, because I'm hurt and my feelings are hurt. So, of course, everybody else feels this way. When the business reality, maybe it doesn't match that, or maybe it does. And maybe the full effect won't be felt until this generation's over, and then they're trying to sell next generation, and then nobody buys in. And it's just like, oh, shit, like, we fucked up pretty good, didn't we? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
We have Luke says, "Hi, gents. It's been ages since I've put a question to you guys, so I'm being cheeky and asking 2 questions. Jez, have you seen the lineup for 2025 Download Festival, and what are your thoughts? I still find it hard to believe you've never done a music festival. Pop your cherry and join us. I've got a spare tent you can use." What's 2025 Download Festival? What is that?
The Download is a big rock festival in the UK, very famous. I have not seen the lineup actually, but I do want to go to a festival. Me and my girlfriend talked about it before, but the problem is we've got very different tastes in music. She's more of a Swiftie. I'm more of a Godflesh kind of guy. So, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm gonna check out the lineup now. You've said that. What's the next part of the question?
Yeah, and he says, "Rand, I'm a big audiobook listener. I work 60 hours a week, so I listen while driving. Have you read The Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne? Also, give me a few recommendations, fantasy and sci-fi, please. I keep forgetting to write down the ones you recommend in previous podcasts. Keep up the good work." I have not
You should do a recommendations list on Patreon so people can actually track it.
Yeah, I've not read Bloodsworn Saga. I do own the books, though. I will get to them at some point. If I would recommend the Faithful and the Fallen if you are a fan of John Gwynne. That's like Malice and Wrath. That is a pretty good series. So I know I always kind of, when people come to me for book recommendations, I'm very cautious to recommend a series because I know how hard it can be to keep up with that, especially like even my book buddy Joaquin. He's notorious. He'll just read one book in the series and he won't even read any of the other ones. Like he's awful with that, right? Here I am like reading the 15th book in the Dresden Files, and he gets to book 2 and then stops, Right? He's like terrible when it comes to actually continuing on with stuff like that, right? He's like a when he sees like a new book, like it's like a shiny thing, he's like a dog. He's like, I'm gonna go read that and put down the series I'm reading. So for anybody who's listening who hasn't heard like my recommendations, if you want a sci-fi book that's one-off, Project Hail Mary is the one I recommend everybody. It's also, I think they just finished filming the movie, so the movie's going to be coming out next year with Ryan Gosling. It's an incredible book. Another great sci-fi standalone is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which the TV show for it just came out, and it's great. I'd recommend both. I recommend both, like the book and the TV show. If you want a good sci-fi series, I would check out The Children of Time by what's the author? I forget the author's name off the top of my head. The Children of Time.
Oh,
what?
I know his name. It's J.R. Tolkien.
No. No, it's not. Oh, his name's Adrian. Adrian Tchaikovsky is his name. He's really great sci-fi. It's 3 books. The first one's Children of Time. It has to do with giant spiders that are super intelligent, which is great.
That sounds
I recommend that.
Horrific, actually.
So those are ones I recommend for sci-fi. Horror, I mean, Stephen King's got some great horror, from The Stand to It to
Misery.
I mean, anything by Stephen King is amazing, so you can't go wrong with anything from him.
Anything?
Most
Does he have
things.
a single bad book?
People probably say he does, but The
What's his
Troop.
worst book?
I'd recommend The Troop for a horror book. It's not from Stephen King, but it's definitely one I've read recently that really was like, oh my god, this is disgusting. Made me look at food a different way as well.
How do you have time to read all these books and play all these games?
I'm just good, bro. I mean, I always sort of just I force myself to almost read 100 pages or 200 pages a day. So I'm constantly moving, bro. I wouldn't say force. Like, I usually will read 100 pages before I play a game. So, as for fantasy, fantasy is difficult because there aren't really a lot of great standalone like fantasy novels. So,
What about Dune?
I mean, Dune is science fiction and it's a series, and Dune is great. But Dune's also very tough read. A lot of people really can't get into it.
I know.
What?
What about Goosebumps?
People do like Goosebumps.
Goosebumps is sick. R.L. Stein.
Yeah,
I read those.
As for fantasy, I'd probably recommend any like the Brandon Sanderson stuff, whether it's Mistborn or Stormlight Archive. I think are both great. What else? Any other series? I mean, there's so much stuff. I'm kind of blanking on things right now. I wasn't thinking about this question and thinking about like, the book stuff, but yeah.
Dude, you've read off more books in the last couple of minutes than I've read in my entire life.
Yeah, I know.
So.
I'm just like that. We got a good old Collinwood who says, "Hello, Rand and Jez. I note that in the This is Xbox debate, Jez and Brad Sams are on the same page, but Destin Legary and Sika Mechanico from Xbox are on the opposite side. If this was a tag team wrestling match, who would win? The Executioner Jez Corden and Brad No BS Sams versus Destin IGNite Legary and everybody's friend Sika Mechanico."
Well, I would definitely win because Sika Mechanico is like 4 foot.
Is he? Is
4'3".
Sika Mechanico short?
Yeah, he's 4'3", bro. He's 4'3". So I definitely win on that basis alone.
I mean,
and also
with the name like the Executioner, I mean, come on.
I happen to be something of a wrestler myself, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a backyard wrestler in a federation known as UVW, Ultra Violent Wrestling. So I reckon I could dust off the wrestling skills and come back for an exhibition match. It'd be more fucking entertaining than Mike Tyson's boxing match.
Oh Jesus! I don't really care for boxing. I did try to tune in to check out the fight, and I was hit with the Netflix buffering. So I was like, no, I guess I'm not going to watch this.
Automatically noped out. Yeah. But I didn't watch it. But the only thing I know is he got his ass cheeks out for some reason, and now he's a meme.
He's a meme. He's a meme. Mike Tyson's ass cheeks are a meme, indeed. Yeah.
That's his legacy. Those ass cheeks. What? Oh, man.
I got my money on the Executioner and Mr. No BS Brad Sams. So
yeah, Brad Sams is a killer, man. That dude is violent. I've heard stories about Brad Sams, man. He's a killer, I tell you.
Yeah.
So we would definitely win because, I mean, what's Destin gonna lose? Destin will throw some cookies.
He doesn't even make the cookies anymore.
Well, there you go. He doesn't even make the cookies, so he's screwed.
What is John gonna do? Like cut you with his midlife crisis
accent,
tomahawk, or his faux hawk he's got going on there or whatever.
It's Mohawk.
Mohawk.
Oh damn.
Maybe if Special Nick was part of the other team, you might have a problem, or Paris. Or
I wouldn't wrestle Special Nick, bro.
Yeah, maybe if Paris
he's
was
got
on
all the
team.
training from fighting giant snakes and
giant spiders and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like Jake the Snake Roberts. He'd come out with a snake in a bag and poison everyone. I don't know. Or hit me with a didgeridoo. How many stereotypical jokes can you fit into one sentence? Man.
We got a question here from iMike0. Hey, Rand and Jez, with the holidays upon us, it's always fun to bring video games with us to family members' houses. Nintendo is the king of accessible family gaming with the Wii and the Switch. If you could introduce people to Xbox in an accessible way, how would you do it? For me, Jackbox party games are the way to go because everyone can use their phone as a controller. Song Pop is another. Shout out to that game for being one of the few that has Limp Bizkit in it.
Limp Bizkit's great, actually. The way I introduced my girlfriend to gaming, and this is probably not what you want to show a family, I put her on Limbo, and
Mm.
she loved that game because it's like it's easy to play. It's also quite deep and spooky and intriguing. So I think Limbo is actually a really great game to introduce someone of appropriate age to gaming. But it's not ideal in a family setting. Jackbox Party Pack is pretty good, but I don't think you get the mechanical learnings there. One thing I do think though, like just on a side, there's not enough games that are accessible like that on Xbox. Like Mario's got Mario Kart, which pretty much anyone can play. There's also that automatic driving mode, which makes people think they're playing. It'd be great if like Xbox had something like that. Um, People always talk about like, what if there was a Forza kart game, with Master Chief, Arthas, and you could put Call of Duty characters in there. You could do all kinds of shit with it, and also make it really accessible. I think that question really highlights the fact that there is a lack of options for people in that vein. But maybe there isn't, or maybe I just don't know. Do you have any thoughts, Rand?
I don't know, cause like when I'm thinking of the times my whole family's played something, it was like originally the Wii. It was the Wii, and
Ooh.
even my dad and my mom played the Wii boxing, or maybe it was Wii bowling. And I was like, wow, they really like this, but they're not really interested. Like that was like really the only time they ever really sat down to play something.
Mm.
I know my nephews have gotten into Xbox and PlayStation through Roblox. I mean, they started playing Roblox on their tablets,
Mm.
but then they kind of started playing it on their consoles. Um, I don't know. I just know it would be very difficult to get like my dad or my mom or my sisters to play something. Like my sister was interested, as I mentioned before, in Hogwarts Legacy because she loves Harry Potter and she wanted to play the game. So maybe it would have to be something that appeals to something that they already love. I just couldn't see
Mm.
my sisters being interested in gaming at all. Period. I do think they play mobile games, but I don't really think they think of that as gaming like we think of that as gaming. Like if you'd ask them, "Are you a gamer?" They just say no. They're just killing time playing something, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, Jackbox Party is a interesting. That is a good choice. I feel you can have a bunch of people play. It can be fun.
I
People
love
use
the
their phones and
T-shirt
stuff.
game in that, where
Yeah.
you have to draw the T-shirts. That is so funny. If you've got a lot of people with fucked up sense of humor, it's really fun.
Yeah. Let me see. We got a couple super chats here I wanted to read before we get out of here. It's got scarcely relevant. It's like late Patreon question for Rand. Was my pressuring about getting membership gifting for your account worth it? Lol. I mean, I guess yeah. You drop an 80 definitely was. It took a long time for me to figure out what was wrong, and then YouTube took a while to answer me back. But yeah, I'm glad they fixed it. Baldy McNosehair with the 20 says Death Stranding is currently the number 2 best-selling game on Xbox and also the 38th most played game on Xbox. Do you think Sony is looking at this and thinking of putting games on Xbox, or is it just a one-off? I
Mm,
think it's tough to say specifically what Sony thinks about Death Stranding when Kojima owns the IP now.
yeah, because
Where,
Kojima wants it to be a zeitgeist game,
yeah,
and he's got a movie coming out. He wants Death Stranding to be a whole thing, right? He wants to build it up in that way, and he knows that algorithmically, in order to do that, it needs to be everywhere. And if there's anything that proves Xbox is still in the game, it's the fact that Death Stranding just launched on Xbox. Like if Xbox was irrelevant, they wouldn't have even bothered. They're not doing it for a bit of extra cash. They're doing it because there's a huge amount of people that still play games actively on Xbox, evidently, from the fact that it topped the chart and beat Call of Duty in some cases, in some regions. So, um, but is Sony seeing a penny of that? Like, it's hard to tell.
I
I
mean, I'm
mean,
sure they do. I mean, I would imagine they do, unless like it's written in the
but in
contract that they don't.
505, but
505 Games did publish
505
it, so
published
maybe
it.
they don't. Maybe Sony doesn't. Or we'd have to know like Sony's contract with Kojima to
Yeah.
understand if they get a royalty or something, or a small percentage of the sales.
I'm sure Sony's like thinking about the implications of Xbox's strategy and what like it'll look like for it'll change the definition of success if Xbox has if Xbox manages to pull this off and have a huge amount of success without harming their own console install base. It'll change the definition of what success looks like in this industry, and Sony will have to reconsider, I think. But I don't know. Maybe there's too much pride, man.
Well, we sort of already.
Where's that Pulp Fiction?
We sort of know what Sony what Sony feels about Xbox because they had an opportunity to put Lego Horizon on Xbox, and they didn't. Yeah. They chose not to. Right, and I don't know if you saw some of the early returns on for the PC. It seemed like it bombed on PC. I think it had a high of maybe 600 people or whatever. And
did?
Lego Horizon on PC.
Why, that came out?
Yeah, it came out on the 15th last week.
600 people.
That's just the PC. And I would imagine Sony probably not. This game's going to sell most on our platform or maybe on the Switch because Lego games. But it didn't review well. And it doesn't seem to be doing well on PC. So
it probably would have done better on Xbox and PC.
Maybe it would have. So
at least there's a Roblox kiddie crowd there.
I don't know. I do feel like if they decided Helldivers, because I think it would help the game. Okay, this would help the game if we put it over here and we would make some money. But would they be worried about PlayStation as a brand being well, we don't want to help Xbox in any way, and this would be. But it's but it says that for any game.
It's going to be everything.
Yeah, it's Uncharted. We'd make more money if we put Uncharted over there, and God of War, and Last of Us. Of course you would. I mean, the more places you put something, the more money you're going to make. But I still think that's one of the reasons why they're very tiptoeing about the idea of PC, because they're even though they've done day one PC launches, they're still kind of for the big ones it's a year or two, right? And it's they're still kind of being very cautious with that. Where if they're being very cautious with PC, I feel like that kind of makes Xbox sort of off limits for now. But I mean, we've seen the industry change dramatically in 10 years. Who knows where everything's going to be in 5, in 2030, we could see a big upheaval with everything. Maybe at that point it's we will, but it's going to be, some time, it won't be right away or something, but I don't know.
Maybe we're all dead.
I mean, Sony also did just have a change in leadership, which usually sometimes change in leadership comes in change of philosophy and change of goals, Maybe Jim Ryan would have had a more favorable look, and Herman Holst and whoever's in charge now don't. And maybe same goes for Xbox. Phil's not always going to be here. I mean, maybe he retires next year or the year after, and someone else is going to take his place. What if someone else takes his place? What if they grab somebody who from outside of gaming?
What if they get that guy from Unity, John Riccitiello? No.
I mean, I'm just saying, if Phil leaves, maybe there's then also a change of strategy, or maybe not. Maybe it's strategy is going to be dictated by Amy Hood and Tim Stewart and Satya now. But I mean, that's the thing with Xbox now is Phil's been there for a long time, and at some point he's going to leave. And if Sarah or Matt
a lot of money.
takes over, maybe there's also a change there, or somebody comes from outside. Maybe somebody from Netflix comes over to take over the business. And maybe there'll be some slight changes in philosophy and the business plan at that point. I don't know. But anyways, that's the end of the show. Jez is tired and needs to get to bed. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thanking Scarcely Relevant Scarecrow for all the 90s memberships. Hope everybody enjoys those. Thanking everybody who super chatted. All the wonderful patrons, whether you dropped a question or not. Anybody who's listening to this later on iTunes or Spotify, we appreciate you too. Leave us a review or give us a star or 5 stars, whatever you want. It does help out all the stuff. Same thing with hitting the like button here and subscribing to the channel. We should be back on Wednesday.
Check us on Patreon.
Yeah, we should be back on Wednesday with an Xbox 2+1 or Xbox Ultimate, depending on if we can grab a guest. And we'll be back on Friday for another Xbox 2, or an Xbox, 2 regular 2 podcast. Thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring the show. You can get 20% off everything on the store and free shipping worldwide with our code XB2. And with that, we're out of here, Jez. Episode 340 is done.
Woo.
And we'll see everybody soon. Later, guys.
Take care, everybody. Hugs.